Well, hello, and welcome to the, what month is this? September live stream. And Rex, I see you in there. Hello, welcome. Glad you're here. Yes. All right, we made it. In the house now, totally moved in. Haven't totally arranged everything yet, but we are in the Tiki room. Not that this has changed since the last time, really, except that I did finish. Where is it? Right there. I finished the skyscraper back there. So I'll post a photo of it at some point. But yes, we're here. I've got tonight's mug is the Horror in Clay Cthulhu Tiki mug by the Horror in Clay company there. And I'm not going to say what's in it because I don't sure that's allowed on YouTube. So let's just say it smells really good. Been a while since it says I've been to one of these. Yeah, it has. Well, usually it's been like something or other coming up for you. Hey, Martin's here too. Hello, welcome. Say hi, Rex. Glad you're here. We need some proper dinosaur representation as well. We don't want to just be all primates, right? So glad that you're here. Glad Martin's here. And as usual, not much, no set topics tonight, of course. It's just whatever madness you guys want to get going on. Show off a couple things that I purchased recently. Now that Spirit Halloween is open as well, so I think I showed off the Mars Attacks Martian plush that I got, but I've added a few things since then as well. I almost missed this live stream as well because I've been playing Silk Song a lot. Well, I'm glad that you managed to get away from that screen to come to this screen and watch me and join in. See who else is going to pop in here in the first little bit. Who do we got? Rex, Martin, and the bride, who is actually just sitting over that way. Anyways. And Enoch, hello, welcome. Oh, it's going, actually. Let's see. Yesterday we finally handed over the keys, had the final walkthrough, moved out of our old place into the and into the new place finally. Now this is our one home. Now we have to actually deal with the mess here instead of just cleaning up the mess over there. This morning had car repairs, so that was expensive. um, but yeah, no. Otherwise, here we are, we're in, and still sitting in front of the Kongs here. As I mentioned, I got the skyscraper done right there, finally. So that space is filled up now. um, let's see. Rex says hi, bride. El Santo, hola, El Santo. And Rex, I actually have a question about Jules Verne. If you want to start with that, well, bring it on, Rex. Let's do it. Start with Jules Verne, my favorite author. Not that this is a steampunk channel. As such, Queen. Hello, Queen. Welcome. But actually, I do have sort of the rudimentary form of my other studio set up as well. So I got the action figures up on their bookcases and that sort of thing. Don't have it fully developed into dioramas yet, but I have a couple of shelves of Disney. Got some 20,000 League stuff in there and that kind of thing. Hello, creature. Welcome, welcome. Also managed to properly frame and post up my Disney pins, including my 20,000 League collection and Fantasia collection and my souvenir collection. So I can pull those out if anybody's interested. We can take a look at my Disney pins. I was gonna actually do a proper video of that someday. Which videos are coming back. I don't have any previews to show you this time, but now that we're just settled in here and the old house is done with, I can actually maybe get back to and my tour guiding season is also done. My summer tour guiding season, so I might be able to um, concentrate on doing videos again. So, Queen likes Jules Verne as well. Of course, Jules Verne is awesome. In the past, you said Jules Verne books are essentially nature documentaries. But if so, what is Mysterious Island supposed to showcase? Um, Mysterious Island is a Robinson Crusoe style island adventure, right? So it's supposed to be kind of like the South Seas Island kind of boys' own story thing. And then that, well, I mean, that Mysterious Island is a sequel to two other Verne novels, right? The 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, and the In Search of the Castaways, or Children of Captain Grant. And so it's kind of it's this. It takes the form of this sort of Robinson Crusoe, a bunch of people stranded on an island, and then it weaves in these other characters um, to sort of tie up these ends from these other popular novels that Verne had. But 20,000 Leagues itself is a travelogue of the ocean. The Nautilus is just the vehicle by which you could travel under the water. And then Children of Captain Grant, In Search of the Castaways. It's just basically an excuse to travel along that one parallel, right? And visit Africa and Australia and New Zealand. So that's sort of what's wrapping up with. Like, it's not strictly that all of Verne's stories are nature documentaries or cultural documentaries, but that's sort of the general tone of things, right? Is that most of them are that way. Some of them are more straightforward adventures, some of them are historical dramas, that sort of thing. But the bulk of them are these sort of like proto nature documentaries, cultural documentaries, that kind of thing. Santo read all of his novels when he was a kid. Nice. See which applies to Robur the Conqueror. Yeah, I mean, that's another one that it's like, I'd be hard pressed to say that that's like a nature documentary as such. It's more of like a cultural study, certainly. In fact, Robur, I think, is probably more closer to um, people's impression of 20,000 Leagues and sort of the post Disney milieu, right? Because Disney really focused on, well, kind of, focused more on the idea of Nemo as this rebel waging war against war thing. But even then, it's mainly like a jail escape story, jailbreak story. The man waging war against war is very poorly developed compared to, say, Master of the World, like the Vincent Price movie, which is like very much more developed in that idea of like he's a man waging war against war. That's what really is driving the plot, and is his own undoing as well. Whereas 20,000 Leagues ends up being a bit more of like just a generic like revenge story. So 20,000 Leagues is one of my favorite novels. Excellent. Any movies you have seen recently? For me, it's The Gore Gore Girls by Herschel Gordon Lewis. I've not seen that one. We haven't really watched a whole lot of movies recently. Um, Again, just time and whatever. The thing that we've probably single thing we've spending the most time watching lately has actually been Dark Shadows. Um, where are we at in Dark Shadows? Um, they found what's her face? They found Maggie. They found Maggie, and now Barnabas is going after Victoria. That's where we're at in the show right now. So, and yeah, he thinks that Victoria is the next one that he can manipulate into being um, his lost love, kind of thing, which isn't at all creepy. But thinks it might work better with her. So that's really what we've actually been watching more is Dark Shadows. Master was also turned into a movie. Yep, yeah, it was a price. The movie version of Mysterious Island has been flicked by Ray Harryhausen, correct? Okay, so it's more of a finale to a trilogy than a documentary. Yeah, yeah. Again, it's his homage to the Robinson Crusoe, um, Robinsonade type of story with his own sort of twists and throwing in that trilogy sort of thing. Have a question. I have been started reading Lovecraft recently, and what are your opinions of his beliefs? Since I know he was a racist, and what do you consider the best story from his library? Yes. I wrote an essay for my Victorian science fiction blog a million years ago. That I feel like I should translate into a video at some point. But basically, the tragedy of Lovecraft is that he's really a general misanthrope as well. Like, to say he's racist rather misses the severity of his issues. It's not just that he was a racist. He was disgusted by humans in general. He was disgusted by humankind. He was disgusted by religion. He was disgusted by racial mixing. He was disgusted by women. He was disgusted by sex. He was disgusted by the whole human experience. And and the weird thing is, like, he could be very generous with people that he knew. Like, there's lots of this correspondence that young aspiring authors had with Lovecraft, where he was really helpful and really generous and all that sort of thing. So specific people he was fine with, but humankind in general, he had all of these hang-ups and issues and just visceral disgust. He was probably on some kind of spectrum. But this, even though that's the tragedy of Lovecraft, um, that's also sort of the source of the potency of his writing as well. His ability with language to convey the sense of disgust and wrongness, um, is his own experience of life, and he had the vocabulary and the ability to manipulate language in these really interesting and creative ways to express that disgust with the human experience. Um, so I think it's, like I said, I think it misses the depth of his problem to just brush him off as a racist. Like, oh, he's a perfectly normal guy the rest of the time, and then over here he's just a racist. No, he was not a normal guy at all. um, and but so as for his best story, I mean, I'm gonna go with the Call of Cthulhu on that one. Cthulhu, just because that's the most archetypal story. I think if you wanted to understand Lovecraft, read Call of Cthulhu. There you go. That's the reason why it's the classic one, right? If you wanted the full length treatment, then you might go for like At the Mountains of Madness. But those would be like sort of, I think, the two most Lovecraftian books. Um, yeah, I mean, every other story is kind of a variation on those themes. So yeah, I would, for someone who's never read any Lovecraft, to start with the Call of Cthulhu would be where I would go with that. Um, let's see. Also seen the original Toxic Avenger. Cool. Yep, Vincent Price art is kept as Robert the Conqueror. Yep, and did actually, I think, a lot better job in that archetype and in that story than James Mason and 20,000 Leagues. I don't think I've done a video about this, but like Vincent Price is much more charming and personable, and all of the supporting cast are like actual characters, like the cook and the first mate and all sort of stuff. And you get this sense of like why these people would go to their death with Robert in a much more poignant way than Captain Nemo, where it's like all of the extras are just like these faceless, nameless, like they're just there, and then suddenly they're all like, "All right, Captain, we're going down with the ship." And it's like, why? it's like really the ship and the crew are just sort of like extensions of Nemo himself, with then sort of the fault in the writing in terms of like, well, you don't empathize with these as characters. Whereas in Master of the World with Vincent Price, they are characters. So you get this much more developed sense that there's a relationship there that these people have. And I find it much more powerful ending, um, because it's these people who this is the relationship they've built, this is the family that they've built in their desire to wage war against war, and that's much more like Robert isn't sort of nerfed by having some backstory about, oh, it was really, he's just getting, Nemo's just getting revenge for his wife and child, right? And the secret of atomic power is just sort of the precipitating event for that. But it's as brilliant as 20,000 Leagues is, it's not well developed as like this ideological focus of like waging war against war. Whereas Robert, that's what he's about. You don't know anything about his backstory, right? He's just this dude waging war against war, and that eventually becomes his undoing. Right? Let's see, where are we at? Satire Avenger. Do you know there were 2 feature films based on Dark Shadows? Yes. There's like the one of Barnabas and the one of Quentin Collins. I have like a couple. I think both the original ones, and then there's like the Johnny Depp one. But Johnny Depp played Barnabas Collins. Yeah, that one bombed. Yeah. That was like this friend of mine was like totally loyal to Tim Burton, warts and all, until Dark Shadows. He's like, I can't defend this man anymore. I remember enjoying Dark Shadows when I first watched it, even though I don't like serialized television. Like you look at single issue comics is how I feel about serialized TV. Yeah, I get that. It's nice to be able to mainline it. Like yeah, I don't read single issues. I have to wait until the next Void Rivals and Transformers and GI Joe trade paperbacks come out. But yeah, we when we go on a bender for Dark Shadows, it's like we watch like 5 episodes at a time. So was it good as a series? Yeah, I do find it ironic that you describe Lovecraft as making the horror of there not being God. Yeah, even though his most famous story is about a god. Well, see, this is the thing. Okay. Yes. In the Lovecraftian context, you're supposed to understand Cthulhu and Azazoth and Nyarlathotep and all them as deities of some kind. Of a sort, although most of the other just sort of these extraterrestrial beings, right? Like Cthulhu's an alien. And he drapes these extraterrestrial or extra dimensional entities in the trappings of religion. And the famous rhyme about Cthulhu is just this like creepified summary of the Apostles' Creed. Right? Thou is not dead, which can eternal lie, and with strange eons even death may die. That's just the Apostles' Creed. As filtered through someone who thinks it's weird and creepy and gross. But here's the thing. In an actual theological lens, as someone who does believe in God and has a master's degree in theology, Cthulhu is not a deity. Azazoth, maybe. You can make that argument for Azazoth. Azazoth is a parody of God. But like Cthulhu is not a deity in the Judeo-Christian sense of what a deity is. And in fact, this is also a common response I have when I have this debate for reals, and people are like, well, how do you know it's God and not Zeus or Osiris or whatever? Is that even if you could conclusively prove that Cthulhu existed or Thor existed or whatever, they would not be gods by the Judeo-Christian definition of the term. They would just be very powerful entities. Cthulhu would just be a very powerful bug thing. He would not actually be a god by Judeo-Christian standards, by definitions. So, yeah, like it's like Lovecraft is deliberately trying to satirize religion and present this view of religion as like, well, if you step back and put different trappings on it, this is what it looks like. It looks like this creepy Cthulhu death cult thing. But again, that's like you have to look at it through his perspective, because if you look at it through an actual Christian perspective, it's like, no, that's not what it's like. So, yeah, it's a bit weird that way. There's actually a series of novels called the Merkaba Rider, which is about this Old West demon hunting Hasidic gunslinger. And it actually does an interesting job of sort of fusing sort of Jewish mysticism and theology with Lovecraft. And I don't agree with all of it. And I remember when I read the second book, I was a bit disappointed because it went too far into Lovecraft. Like, that's kind of tired territory. Like, I'm much more interested in like the Old Testament angels and demons territory. But it pulls it all together by the last book. But that's an interesting read if you are familiar with the topics of weird westerns and Lovecraft and Judeo-Christian theology. I know what you mean, but still ironic, yeah. Didn't Lovecraft also write Reanimator? Yes, Herbert West Reanimator, yeah. The Altruism, yes. That and Dagon are my favorite Lovecraft stories. Yeah. Lovecraft is a really flawed person who had a rough life. Yeah, a very insular person, like rough, but mostly it was just him in his own head, in his own little world in Providence. There were at least 2 movies based on the Reanimator. Yep, starring Jeffrey Combs, mostly famous as playing everybody in Star Trek. At least 1 sequel, Santo. Do you think Lovecraft's work have trouble on working film? Because I have seen some of the adaptations are not that great. Um, yeah, Lovecraft is difficult to translate into film because the key idea in Lovecraft is that the universe is so far beyond human comprehension and so hostile to human existence that to perceive it in any kind of fuller reality than we can would drive you mad, would drive you insane. So to perceive these other entities would drive you insane because they don't follow the laws of physics as we know them in our limited perception. And there's non-Euclidean geometry and these weird, Shoggoth creatures and everything else. It would drive a person insane. You can't put that on film because you do that and okay, there it is, and it's not driving you insane. Like, I would even, if Cthulhu were to appear today, I'm not sure he would drive anyone insane. So you'll be like, oh yeah, that's Cthulhu. I've seen that in books before. Cthulhu just be like, oh, okay. And then we'd send like fighter jets at him. So it's really hard to translate that into a movie. So my favorite Lovecraft movie is the H.P. Lovecraft Historical Society's Call of Cthulhu silent movie. So they made this movie that was like, what if Call of Cthulhu had been made into a movie in the year it was published, 1927. So they made it as a silent movie. It's not perfect. They were a little too heavily on computers that ended up being pretty obvious, but still, it's mostly really good, except that they show the monster. They can't help themselves. Like nobody can help themselves. They have to show off the monster, and it's like you can't do that because while it's supposed to drive you insane when you look at it, and I'm looking at it, I'm not going insane. So, um, um, Lovecraft-like stories that I think capture some essence of it. There's In the Mouth of Madness with Sam Neill, I think it's John Carpenter movie. I think that captures a lot of sort of Lovecraftian essence without being a direct adaptation of Lovecraft. And Event Horizon, which also taps into Judeo-Christian views as well. But the idea of like, yeah, these people, warp drive takes them to hell, and then the ship comes back and brings something with it. I think captures some of that as well. Both movies starring Sam Neill, weirdly enough. Sam was really good at that sort of stuff. I think those 2 movies kind of capture it pretty well. The H.P. Lovecraft Historical Society also did an adaptation of The Color Out of Space, which was their first sort of color movie. And then, what was the one? They did a sound one. Shoot. Can't remember the name of it. It was sort of be like, basically these movies are like, if they were made when the book was published. So they did this other one, the sound one, is like a, what if Lovecraft was doing this like Universal Monsters sort of a movie. Why can't I remember it? I saw it. I wasn't as impressed by it as I was by Call of Cthulhu. So I'm just looking it up right now. Historical Society movies. The Whisperer in the Darkness. Yeah, Whisperer in Darkness was the Universal Monsters style, 1930s style horror one, which I wasn't as impressed by. I thought it was a little too much, much more even obvious computer work in that one. Too much reliance on miniatures and stuff like that. But didn't fully capture the spirit of a 1930s movie. But anyways, yeah, those are the ones that I like the most. I think because they have such a novelty to them as like a silent movie or whatever, that it glosses over some of the other challenges of adapting Lovecraft. All the queens. Okay, maybe like your new profile picture. It's for that type. It's okay. Do you think James Mason was better in Journey to the Center of the Earth? It's hard to say because Nemo was still a very powerful role. If you overlook the fact that it's sort of like as a story about a man waging war against war, it's not as convincing. But as a story about revenge, like Captain Nemo practically leaps off the screen with his monologues stuff, right? So I would say Nemo is a very powerful role. I did like Journey to the Center of the Earth as an actual science fiction movie. Like so much science fiction is either just like technological stuff, and mostly anti-science fiction, right? Here's why science is going to destroy us all. Whereas Journey to the Center of the Earth is this very charming movie about how you just the joy and adventure of scientific discovery. And Professor Leidenbrock is very much just like, you're all celebrating me, but I don't have any evidence. So we have to go back to the center of the earth and have a proper expedition and do this the proper scientific way. And I really like that. I enjoyed that because it's like an actual like somebody wrote that who actually has a concept of how science works like properly. So I like the role. Plus, he got to be like romantic lead in that one, so that's nice. Um, he's more personable in Journey to the Center of the Earth, but Nemo's a more powerful role. And I don't want anybody to think like I didn't like 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea is like one of my top favorite sci-fi franchises. If you think of like the movie and the rides and the merchandise and the tiki bars and everything else, I'm actually glad Disney hasn't had a chance to make prequels and sequels and Disney Plus shows and stuff like that. But I am enjoying sort of all the merchandise and stuff around the movie, and then the movie itself. It's still really good. I still really enjoy it. So don't get me wrong that I don't like 20,000 Leagues. I do. I had a whole 20,000 Leagues pin collection. But yeah, it's just that I'm not ignorant of its weaknesses as well, right? Queen's natural look. I just watched Dark Shadows when they reran it on the Sci-Fi channel. Nice. Yeah, we're watching it on Tubi. It's on there. So, let's see, where were we? It's on the Sci-Fi channel. It's also a primetime version of Dark Shadows. A different cast. Cthulhu is more of a Zeus definition of deity. Yeah, Cthulhu is he's somewhere between extraterrestrial and extra-dimensional entity. But again, not a god in the Judeo-Christian sense of the term, which is as Thomas Aquinas defined, ipsum esse subsistens, subsistent active to be itself. So, even if Zeus, Thor, Odin, Cthulhu, Amaterasu, Tangaroa, etc., if you could like definitively prove they all existed, they still would not be considered gods in the Judeo-Christian sense of the term. Is Vishnu a god by the Abrahamic definition of God? Vishnu is getting closer. I would say the Brahman itself, right? Because like Vishnu, Shiva, and Brahman, or the Trimurti, are sort of meant to be three expressions of the Brahman. Sorry, it's been a while since I've thought about Hinduism. With the Brahman being like God in its totality, and then the Trimurti being the expression of the creator, the sustainer, and the destroyer / remaker of things. That's closer. That's a lot closer to the concept. And I think there's some interesting parallels there even to be made in terms of like you have this concept of the oneness of reality, that reality itself has a consciousness, that it manifests in this like Trinity kind of thing. I find that interesting parallels there. But that, yeah, it's closer. But like, Zeus, no. Like the Olympian pantheon, no. They are just archetypes of natural forces and human emotions. Same like any of the like European pagan and even Middle Eastern pagan pantheons are just these sort of symbolizing of natural forces and human emotions, as opposed to again like the Thomas Aquinas definition of God is ipsum esse subsistens. So Um, Cthulhu, I often mention that god whenever I sneeze. Lovecraft is almost impossible to translate to other media. That's why there haven't been that many adaptations, yeah. Yeah, it's hard to resist the urge to show something. Another one that's actually not that bad, I found, was The Haunted Castle with Vincent Price and Lon Chaney Jr. because it does resist showing. It gives you some glimpses of things, but it mostly resists trying to show you the monstrous extra dimensional entity that will drive you mad. So that one's not that bad either. It's sort of Lovecraft filtered through 1960s Edgar Allan Poe movie vibe. Are you aware of theology of film franchise Journey to Center of the Earth adaptation starring Brendan Fraser and later with The Rock's Mysterious Island movie? I am aware of it. Sometimes the line about feldspar gets quoted in our household, but I can't say I enjoyed it. I mean, it's sort of Brendan Fraser as like post The Mummy action hero kind of guy. Yeah, it didn't. See, the thing is, like, what I love about Jules Verne is that it is this Victorian science fiction, scientific romance. And so when you set that in the modern day, it strips away the Victorian part of it. And then scientific romance is such this like nuanced concept that's difficult to translate nowadays because we are so flooded with information about just turn on like Discovery Channel or whatever, the BBC, you can watch nature documentaries on YouTube, whatever. So that sense of romanticism is lost in modern society. Um, so to me, like Journey to the Center of the Earth, like it was kind of cute. Okay, it's like it's sort of like a sequel to the Verne novel, and the idea that like the Verne novel was actually real and actually happened, and this is sort of following up on that. It's a cute premise, but wasn't didn't like I wasn't in love with it. I didn't see the sequel. Didn't bother. The religions for my series are inspired by pre-Christian religions like Germanic paganism, Native American religion, and so on. Cool. Nice to catch you on stream. Hey, A-Hat. Speaking of Lovecraft, are you familiar with Robert E. Howard and his work concerning his friends of Lovecraft? I am familiar with Robert E. Howard. I haven't read a lot of his stuff, mostly his weird westerns, like the creature or the horror from the mound and stuff like that. I've read his weird westerns. Haven't read his Conan stuff and whatever. It means Lovecraft stories are interdimensional. Sometimes they're interdimensional. Sometimes they're extraterrestrial. The jury's out on Cthulhu. I prefer thinking of him as an extra dimensional entity because I don't really like the idea that like the Enterprise could like go zipping around the universe and find Cthulhu's home planet. Like that just seems kind of weird. But to me, it kind of diminishes it a little bit. But the whole point of Lovecraft is that you can't visualize it. The whole point of film is that you can visualize anything, so they're natural enemies. Correct. Watched it yesterday on Tubi. OMG, I actually adore the Brendan Fraser journey. I met this kind of geologist personally. The Mysterious Island one I wasn't a fan of. In the Mouth of Madness is a John Carpenter movie. Good. Okay. Someone made a new version of Red Sonja. I haven't had a chance to see it yet. I heard that it was mixed. I've seen mixed reviews of it. Not overly interested in seeing it. So. Can't be any worse than the last attempt. Yeah. Well, can't be worse than is different than better than. So. My favorite Lovecraft adaptation is the third Soria film by Dead Sound, which I forgot the name of. Yeah. Big Robert E. Howard fan myself. Most of the Howard adaptations have been hit or miss, unfortunately, yeah. I find with movies adapting Howard, they get the world right, but the main character wrong. Yeah. Fair enough, yeah. As a Christian, do you hate media where they sympathize with demon characters, such as the likes of Has-Been Hotel, Hell of a Boss, and Owl House? I don't hate them. I don't really pay much attention to them, really. Like I know of Has-Been Hotel. I've never bothered watching it. I think if you're gonna pin me down to an opinion, I think it's boring. First of all, because it's like, okay, yep, the bad guys are actually the good guys. Got it. Okay, whatever. Like that's really boring. I think it's much more interesting to investigate goodness. This is like as an aside, this was part of my disappointment with Maleficent, the movie. Because like I love Sleeping Beauty. I did a whole video on Sleeping Beauty and what's great about Sleeping Beauty. I was super disappointed by Maleficent because like I love Maleficent as a character. As a character, she's great, mistress of all evil. And then like the movie Maleficent just went opposite day. And instead of trying to look at the story through the eyes of the mistress of all evil, it was just like actually Maleficent's the good guy and everybody else are the bad guys, okay? Which is just boring, right? And the whole like ooh I'm super edgy, like ooh the demons are actually the good guys is just kind of like okay it's opposite day and whatever, it's boring. um so I think an investigation of like what makes good good and how does good rise up to challenges is more interesting, and that is in short supply these days because the dominant paradigm is identification with evil, and the idea that because oh you know the good system, civil society, whatever the system is corrupt and evil and oppressive, therefore anybody who stands against it is the good guy, therefore the bad guys are actually the good guys. um you know that just makes anything of actual like characters with actual virtue and stuff in short supply, and that examination of virtue in is not as common anymore. um like I think like a good story, a good movie will make the characters comprehensible and even sympathetic without you being on their side. And this is another thing that escapes a lot of modern critics. You know, like the Joker movie, um, not the sequel, the original one. Um, you know, you could empathize with Arthur Fleck, you could sympathize with him, but it doesn't mean you agree with him, right? He's still a villain. He's still a flawed character and a murderer and a psychopath. But you can empathize with how he got there without diluting the fact that what he does is horrible. Um, the boys, you know, there's all this distress over the fact like how could anybody like Homelander? Because he's the most engaging character on the show. He's the most interesting and engaging character in the show, followed by Billy, right? So, um, like it's not a mystery as to why Homelander is such an engaging character and so many people find him so interesting. Um, it was oh, but you're not supposed to like him. Well, too bad. Like I know he's a horrible person, but how did he get that way is fascinating. It's sort of the nature versus nurture. Is it like a product of ultimate power corrupts absolutely sort of thing? Um, that because he has these superpowers that would naturally lead him to be corrupted this way, or was it because of his upbringing and how messed up that was? That's interesting storytelling. So you can have interesting storytelling about demons and villains and the devil and things like that. That's what Paradise Lost is, without diluting that these characters are evil. They are villains. They are demons. You're not supposed to be on their side, but to see things from their perspective and understand why they are the way they are. One of the best religious books I've ever read was C.S. Lewis's The Screwtape Letters, which is a series of letters written by a senior demon to a lower level demon about how to do proper demoning. Um, it's a super interesting book, and it's actually really it's really a strong novel in that, or as a theological text, is very strong because he spends the whole first half like breaking down all your defenses about like why you're a good person actually, and here are all my excuses for how I'm a good person, and he just systematically breaks these all down as to how demons encourage that kind of thinking until you're left with nothing. And then the second half allows for some more deeper reflection on sort of your own ethics and behavior and morality and that sort of thing. So it's a really good book written from a demon's point of view, but it doesn't nerf it and say, oh, the demons are actually the good guys. Like, because that's lame, that's boring. um and then and then the bride just mentioned the Sandman show on Netflix there. Did something similar stuff, but it's a little more loosey goosey because Neil Gaiman. um but yeah, the bride just being over that way, you sometimes hear chime in. But yeah, I find stories about good facing challenges and rising to the occasion to be much more interesting. So, like, yeah, we all love Dracula as an iconic character, right? Iconic image of Bela Lugosi. But the interesting part of the story is not Dracula himself. The interesting part of the story is how all the other characters face the challenge that Dracula poses as the ultimate seduction into evil. So whether you're Renfield and you succumb to it, or you're Lucy and you succumb to it, or whether you're Mina and you're trying to fight it but you can't, or you're Van Helsing who just like you know sallies forth all of his courage and knowledge to confront this evil entity. That's the interesting part of Dracula. And then you get to like Son of Dracula, which has, in my opinion, the most transcendent ending of the entire Universal Monsters franchise, where Frank must face the seduction of evil in the face of the woman he's in love with. That's powerful storytelling for me, and that's better than like actually the vampires are the good guys and the vampire hunters are the bad guys. Really, like that's just lame. So hopefully that meandering commentary made sense. At least Arnold Schwarzenegger goes as created Conan the Barbarian. Yep. I kind of disagree with your anti-science idea because a lot of these movies aren't using sci-fi elements to say science is bad, but as a metaphor. Like Jurassic Park isn't saying you shouldn't clone extinct animals, but an awful idea of climate change. Or Terminator isn't saying AI is bad, but criticizing nuclear war. Yes. Yeah, that is such a subtle distinction that I'm not sure the movies themselves even make in a lot of ways. Like, Jurassic Park and Jurassic World especially, if they had just followed proper zoo protocols, they would have been fine. Having worked in a zoo, if they had just done what zoos are supposed to do, they would have been fine. And I'm actually not against like de-extincting animals. Like, it won't happen with dinosaurs because you can't get dinosaur DNA. It's all decayed. But like Ice Age mammals, for instance, if we can bring back woolly mammoth, do it. Yeah, sure, do it. But follow proper zoo protocols. So, but it's not really that kind of cautionary tale, right? It's sort of this um, much more of a don't do it kind of thing, I think. Um, seems to be the general gist of things. Although Jurassic World's gone completely off the rails. Um, yeah, I don't know. I mean, yeah, I could see the argument either way. It's not actually anti-science fiction. It's just cautionary tale about how to do the science right instead. Um, but I mean, what is the message of Alien other than existential horror at a universe that is hostile to our existence, as opposed to like, that would lend itself better to an interpretation of don't go into space than like, oh, just do it carefully. At the very least, if you're on an alien world, don't take off your helmet. So anyone else like the Jason Momoa Conan? I didn't even remember the Jason Momoa Conan until you just mentioned it. And the bride's like, that happened? What I'm more interested in seeing is the Jason Momoa TV series about Hawaii and the Rise of Kamehameha. I want to see that one. That looks more interesting. Even though most of the fighting scenes are just like, these Polynesian warriors shit talking each other. That's most of what their culture is. The only moment of that movie I remember was a child Conan killing 3 warriors while keeping an egg in his mouth. Sure. I remember flopped badly, didn't even make his budget back. Yeah. They should have made a whole movie about Conan's childhood. That kid was definitely a better actor than Momoa. Oof. Granted, Momoa does have kind of one character that he does. I'm not sure that would work. Conan is at his core an outsider, interacting with the civilized world and the clashes that it causes. Okay. I like world mythology. Amazing how many legends show up in different cultures. Yeah. Well, it's the Joseph Campbell monomyth kind of stuff, right? Ancient times, if you wanted to read, you had to learn the Greek alphabet. Yeah. Depending where you were. Yeah. Owl House shouldn't count because they aren't traditional demons. They just call demons as an umbrella term for like elves, orcs, and monsters. Those are all demons. Those are all demons. It sounds like demon talk. That's actually why I don't play it, but I am very much amused by Warhammer 40k, because it's like, imagine the worst, um, like all of your worst stereotypes about the Catholic Church, and they're all true, and the Catholic Church are still the good guys compared to what else is out there that we need the church to protect us from. So, and the Xenos. Most people would wound up reading Greek poems and legends result their release for the plausible. Never watched The Boys. It's okay. It starts out strong. The last season was kind of meh. Um, not, yeah, like not even because it got too much on the nose. Like there's sort of this whole meme about how, oh, too many conservatives like The Boys, so they had to make it like really obvious that it was supposed to be a satire. I liked it more so when it was a satire of everybody. Like, um, Vought sort of corporate wokeness was also a target of The Boys. Um, but the last season, they had to make some choices that kind of, I think, made things off the rails a bit. But mostly, it's a good show. So I have enjoyed it for the most part. Do you consider the Joker to be a Batman movie or an Elseworld movie that has Batman characters? I would have loved if they had followed up the Joker with like Batman Year One, like a Year One take on Batman. Um, the Batman, like the Robert Pattinson, like black on black. How black can we make this Batman movie? You can still see something, so it's not quite black enough. Um, I thought that actually would have also been a good sequel to the Joker. Um, just put "thes" in front of the whole series, right? The Joker, the Batman, the Mr. Freeze, whatever. Um, like I thought you could have fit him in there, except that they have a Joker for the Batman, so whatever. And they ruined the Joker of the Joker. Um, I think it's a valid Batman. It's not. I mean, it is a Batman movie, but it's not really a Batman movie. Like, it's not about Batman. It's not superheroes really. It's about um, mental illness and male alienation, and especially set in the 1970s is poignant of how society leaves people behind, and trauma and abuse and all those sorts of things. And it just takes the form of a movie about a Batman villain. Um, I do think it's definitely one of the best DC movies. Certainly, I would put it right up there with, the Dark Knight and Superman movies. Your mileage varies depending on your opinion. Um, so I think it was very good. I liked the Joker. Um, yeah, because it didn't fold into a cinematic universe, you can kind of just stand it alone as like its own movie, right? So you could say it's an Elseworlds type movie, um, or it's just sort of a general um, story about the Joker and insanity, in the same sense that like the Killing Joke is, right? There's some debate over whether or not the Killing Joke even qualifies as an Elseworlds story or not, but I mean, I think it can be appreciated whichever way you want to appreciate it. It's interesting how some characters overlap from one culture to another. Yeah, a lot of stories are about a transcendental figure or a savior. Yeah. Well, again, that's the Joseph Smith, or Joseph Campbell. Joseph Smith's a different thing. Joseph Campbell monomyth, hero of a thousand faces, that kind of thing, which has its limitations as well. Um, that Joseph Smith, God, Joseph Campbell, um, almost lights on to, but then always kind of falls short of really figuring out. He can't quite grasp Judeo-Christian religion because it's a direct, um, like a direct and deliberate subversion of the monomyth, and he doesn't figure that out ever somehow, despite being brilliant. He doesn't figure out that no, the Judeo-Christian tradition is deliberately zigging where other traditions zag. It's on purpose they're doing that. So Dracula is a very satanic character, yeah. And actually, when I'm asked like, "What's your favorite Christian movie?" It's like Dracula. Dracula's my favorite Christian movie. Um, what would a Lovecraftian reimagining of Dracula be like? Well, I mean, it's essentially Nyarlathotep, right? Nyarlathotep is like the seducer, right? Um, he appears to different people in different forms as this seductive figure. It would basically be that. Vampires would just be like these extra dimensional entities that feed on humans. Um, and Dracula would be, seducing some of them into madness so that he could use them to like hunt other prey, right? Something like that. Do you know that both Hercules and Samson killed a lion with their bare hands? Yes, I did know that. Certainly very powerful men back then. Yeah, there's actually it's not quite with Samson. It's a little bit different, but there are these figures in the Bible called the Nephilim, which are the offspring of angels and humans. And little known fact about the Bible is that the existence of the Nephilim were actually one of the proximate causes of Noah's flood. Like, it's not just that like humans are really annoying and God wants to get rid of them. It's that the Nephilim exist, and their existence breaks down the sort of separation between the divine and the human realms, and that's bad. That's bad in Old Testament cosmology. And so the flood is itself a breaking down of the separation between land and water, to wash clean the world of this sort of perversion. But these Nephilim are generally considered by scholars to be a commentary on demigod characters like Hercules, right? These half human, half divine, heroic characters, heroic figures. Your Apollos and or not Apollos, Trojan War guy, Achilles. Your Achilles is and your Hercules and that sort of thing. Um, and so it's sort of like that's the Judeo-Christian commentary, is that these are not these great heroic figures; these are these weird perversions of nature that cause the world to be destroyed because power corrupts. That's one of the most important lessons of the Old Testament. Um, Now Samson's a slightly different case, of course, because he is a human. He's actually uh, his parents took a Nazarite vow. So Nazarite vow was a vow in Judaism that you didn't cut your hair, and you had certain dietary restrictions and stuff like that, and that would grant you special abilities, sort of thing. Um, in terms of sort of like spirit, it was like so. Okay, the Nazarite vow was a vow you made to God, or your parents made to God on your behalf, and it came with these certain things. So, like, you didn't cut your hair. That was one of the main ones. Had these dietary restrictions, so on. And then, as part of that, that means you sort of like had this closeness with God that would impart these abilities. Not that they're natural abilities of your own, but that they're God sort of manifesting through you. So, like John the Baptist was a Nazarite, and for him, it was this prophetic voice in the wilderness that was calling out to society, saying the Romans suck. Um, but then so was Samson. Samson was also a Nazarite, and for him, it manifested as this strength, this power that helped the weakened Hebrew people fight off the Philistines. That was the big challenge there, is that in the early period before the kingdom of Israel got established, the Hebrews, the Jewish people, were just sort of like living in these decentralized villages in the hill country, and then you had this invading force from the Mediterranean, the Philistines, or as the Greeks called them, the Palestinians, who were coming in there, and they were a much more organized military force. And so these different judges would be raised up by God to help, sort of basically like war chiefs, essentially, would be called up to lead the fight against these Philistine invasions. And so Samson is called up as a Nazarite, given this strength to fight them off. But then, of course, he succumbs to Delilah and gets his hair cut off, which severs that vow with God and thus causes him to lose his strength. So you can see parallels with Hercules in there. Always a strong guy who killed a lion. But there's a lot different stuff going on in the Samson story than in the Hercules story. Anyways, thanks for letting me use my theology degree, guys. Kind of like AM from I Have No Mouth, where he's literally the most vile character in fiction, but he's also the most interesting part of the story. Yep. My point is that they're practically the same character. Well, not exactly. Hold on. Where do we go here? Okay. I'm aware without seeing it that Rings of Power made the orcs sympathetic. By that they have families and they want a better life or something dumb like that. Correct, that is dumb. It's like, oh, we have to let the man-flesh eating monsters into our society or else we're racist. Hercules might have inspired Samson. That's a deeper discussion than we might want to do, but yeah. If you were going to pin me down, I would say Samson is probably based on an actual war chief that Hebrews had. The original Jurassic Park, not the sequels, is about climate change. Saying climate change is real, but we shouldn't touch it. Okay. I'm looking forward to Jason Momoa as Lobo. That is like a role he was pretty much born to play. It's so hard to get Lobo right though, right? Because I'm like, okay, Lobo is like that miniseries, the Simon Beasley illustrated miniseries. That is the best Lobo. That is ultimate Lobo right there. So we'll see how he does and if they can bring that energy to the movies. I would like to see a movie just of that. And it would be like, okay, how do we out Deadpool? Let's do Lobo. But we'll see if that ever happens. Hercules was actually son of Zeus. He was a demigod. Correct. Samson was not a demigod. That, as I just explained, Queen. Samson was a human. He was fully human. Yes, his birth was miraculous, and hence the Nazarite vow. But he was not a demigod. So is Samson Jesus' brother? No. He's never specifically identified as a son of God for some reason, because he's not. He is not a son of God. Son of God is a very specific role that Jesus is. It's a specific identity. But it isn't an afterlife in the Owl House. It's just another place, closer to Hogwarts. In fact, it parodies a lot of Harry Potter. Cool. Samson had a magical weakness. He was strong unless he cut his hair. You guys were talking Samson here while I was doing my whole sermon.
The one before that. That was before you started talking about Samson.
I haven't watched Owl House, but the bits I've seen give me the impression I was looking at Harry Potter fanfic. Yeah, I visited Barbara then. He's like Achilles, who was indestructible except for his ankle. Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of Disney wants to be Harry Potter. It's not really. It's kind of a celebration of general nerd culture, critique of puritanic beliefs, and the main villain being a witch hunter. Everybody here should watch The Owl House if they haven't. It's my all-time favorite show. One of my favorite things in the world. Yeah. The Nephilim were supposed to be giants. Goliath was a descendant of the Nephilim. Samson was supposed to have killed 100 warriors in one battle. So these people saw Samson kill dozens of people, but they kept fighting till the last man. I know, I would have been like, if I was one of the Philistines in the back, I'd be like, okay, run away! Doesn't make sense. I do like how, as a community, we can have the most civil conversation on religion in the world, but we'll go blood hungry when talking about space wizard movies we should avoid talking about. Hey, it's all relative, right? The more serious it is, the more civil we can be. The more trivial it is, the more likely that you're all Nazis for disagreeing with me. You should have ordered a retreat. As long as I don't do New 52 Lobo, we're fine. Yeah, I want to, again, miniseries Lobo. I want them to do miniseries Lobo, where Lobo has to bring his like grade 4 teacher back safely. I would have ordered a retreat if our side lost at least 20 men. He also used a jawbone of an ass as a weapon. Correct. That he did. All right, now I'm caught up. Okay. Good. And I'm not even like mentally spicy from what's in my Cthulhu mug here either. So I'm not even loosened up yet. more so than usual. So, geez. No, you guys got me going on theology. That's like literally what my master's degree is in. So, take my my audience here. But at least I'm not like Jared Leto and have a cult or something. A bone against armored troops and steel weapons. Not steel. That would have been Iron Age. Iron Age. Well, the Bible's written in Iron Age. The Hebrew culture formed in the during the late Bronze Age collapse. That's when like the Exodus happened, and when the collapse of the Canaanite city-states. That was all the late Bronze Age collapse.
Okay, fine.
So the Iron Age after that.
Fine.
Yeah. Steel hadn't been invented yet. My favorite Lobo fun fact is that Lobo is the Pope of the Space Dolphins. Yep. Yeah, again, my knowledge of Lobo kind of is obviously situated in the 90s. So it's like, okay, Lobo can't die because he's been to both heaven and hell and they both kicked him out. Lobo's got the dog, his bulldog that he picked up when he killed Santa. So didn't this army have any archers or spearmen? That's a good question. I'd have to look up like what a average Philistine army was. Although now the bride is going to look it up.
I'm dealing with my archaeology degree here.
Yeah, the bride's degree is in archaeology. Her undergrad's in archaeology. So between the two of us, we're a very curious household. We have an entire room now in our new house here. We have an entire room for a library. So maybe once the house is presentable, I'll do a few more tours of like the library and the studio and stuff. But they must have Santa. Most cultures did at that time. Spears, definitely. Archers, I'm not sure. I mean, the Egyptians would have had archers by then.
When would that time have taken place?
Well, it would have been after the collapse of the Canaanite city-states. So, wait, late Bronze Age? I don't look it up. Late Bronze Age collapse. Jeez, when was the last late Bronze Age collapse? In the late Bronze Age, Cory. I was like 3000 BC, kind of thereabouts, I think.
All right, I'm researching.
Pretty sure.
Flag me free. I'll tell you when I find
So, at the Bride of Monster Kid, oh, I'm actually thinking about minoring in archaeology. Do you have any advice? Yeah, don't. No, the bride can give you her advice, her proper advice.
It depends on what you mix it with.
Depends on what you mix it with, she just said. Even Cro-Magnon men had spears. Yeah. Well, it started, you had spears first, then you had points, like atlatls, and then you had arrows.
Which were technically just spears.
And atlatls were technically just spears, just smaller, and had a launcher. Yeah. Dual majoring in film and paleontology, if that helps.
Cool.
Cool, yeah. Oh, you're going to run afoul of the archaeologist-paleontologist divide right there. I think Neanderthal man had spears too. Yeah, spears are like the most primitive for technology.
The first one you get. Pointy sticks.
Pointy sticks, yeah. It's the first one you get. Then they just got more efficient. Spears got smaller, and we got better ways of launching them. And now we put giant rockets on them. Nuclear warheads on the ends.
Atlatls were created and then gotten rid of.
Yeah.
And then they developed arrows, which is weird. Why would you get rid of atlatls? They're amazing.
I don't know. I guess maybe atlatls had a flaw that we aren't really fully cognizant of.
Well, the word atlatl is New World. So.
Sorry, the bride is... I don't know if you can actually hear her back there having this private conversation about atlatls and stuff.
I'm sorry. All right, I'll do my research.
All right, she's doing research. She's gonna dig up. They have cave paintings which depicted men with spears. Correct. Yep. The great cave paintings, which, by the way, if you get a chance to watch Werner Herzog's documentary on cave paintings, it is wild, because of course it is. It's Werner Herzog. He ends with this very strange monologue about alligators. We can half hear her. So she either needs to be louder or quieter, one of the two.
I'm sorry.
This is the thing is I don't have like I do have the private studio space where the room where like the other toys and the fossils are and stuff. But the Kong thing here, this is just the Tiki room, which is our basement. So the TV is off that way, and right now the bride, well, she's playing Red Dead Redemption online, but she's also currently researching Philistine armaments. So
The Philistines did have iron.
the Philistines had iron. Okay,
I'm not
Alright.
coming on screen because I'm not.
she's not coming on screen because she doesn't feel presentable. Well, she's wearing clothes, so which is disappointing, but.
So apparently, for those who are interested, because I am, they actually were well organized, technologically advanced, and equipped with iron weapons.
Okay.
Which the Israelites would have been Bronze Age.
Okay.
So the Philistine military would have been composed of charioteers, infantry, and archers.
Okay, so they did have archers.
They did. And iron.
And iron.
In fact, they had a monopoly on the technology of iron metallurgy.
Which would explain why they were able to basically take over the whole Mediterranean. Yeah. Okay.
Bronze and stone was what the Israelites had. They had control of it. Yes, they said that again.
Okay.
Chariots, though. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Even the Bible as a text says they had a force of 3,000 chariots.
Okay.
Which is like, what? And Goliath was the most famous of several giants associated with Gath. I did not know that.
Yep.
And they had infantry and archers, so...
Okay, so infantry, archers, chariots, and a monopoly on iron. Okay.
And then also psychological warfare is it's commenting on.
Yeah.
Which is...
Well, because you're
yeah.
a Hebrew hill tribe, and suddenly you see a well-organized army coming over the horizon, and you're like, oh, crap. Yeah. Okay. Okay. There we go. All right. Hopefully you got all that. So how do these Philistines conquer anybody? Chariots, monopoly on iron, infantry, archers, and ocean going. Nobody knew where they were from. We still don't really know where they were from.
I didn't look that up.
Yeah, they're just sort of like just appeared on the shorelines of the Mediterranean and conquered everybody. So why didn't they use the archers on Samson then? My guess is probably that he was in the middle of a crowd of them. That would be my guess. Might not have been like tactically like, okay, we can shoot arrows, but like we might end up hitting our own men. So
they also would have all died if they shot an arrow at Samson anyways, because he was busy tearing things down.
Well, just think in the battles before, not the when you take down the temple. Yeah, yeah. So I'm at the pet band game right now. Can't be here. I'm sorry. That's okay. Expose. The pep, not pet. the pep band game right now. Fair enough. I'm glad you popped in, Expose. I know you aren't a fan of late age horror, but if you have any favorite horror movies centered around religion and the devil, which one would that be? If it'd be Rosemary's Baby, The Omen, or The Exorcist? I would say Event Horizon, actually, would be, I think, the most effective. Because, like, it's... You know, you get so much of this, like people want to be edgy and romanticizing hell, right? Romanticizing the devil, romanticizing hell. Even like Hellraiser, like Clive Barker is still like, oh, the beauty of darkness and hell and blah, blah, blah. Whereas Event Horizon really captures just the sheer horror of what it would be like. You don't see much of it, but that like... when they pull up the internal cameras and see what happened when the ship went to hell, like that messed me up for a long time. Yeah. Oh God. Ugh. So I think Event Horizon is actually the most effective in films that involve hell and the devil and whatever. Even though the devil's not in it, but it's still like, you know, it very effectively conveys what hell is. And terrifying. Hell is terrifying. So that would be my go-to response. It's also a good prequel to Warhammer 40k. So they did have archers, yeah. One of the Philistines no longer exist. The Philistines probably came from Finland. Finland. Actually, yeah, that's one of the mysteries. We don't really know where they came from. It's probably some Aegean island or something like that. But they've never, as far as I know, unless that's changed over the last decade or so, don't really know where the Philistines are from. Resident Baby is such an underrated film. I agree, Eric. As soon as I turn in, y'all are talking about religion. Sorry, expose. These guys got me going on it. They got me going on it. You were talking about Samson earlier. You have talked a lot about your favorite horror movies, but what are your favorite horror games? I personally love Hollow Knight and have been 100% Silk Song recently. Horror video games? I mean, part of me wants to say Red Dead Redemption Undead Nightmare because I love the Red Dead Redemption games. And Undead Nightmare is just perfect. Fighting zombies in the Old West. Bring it on. And in that vein, then, the spooky content in Red Dead 2 and Red Dead Online is also really fun. Like in Red Dead Online, there's a whole story arc told across like bounty missions and Halloween content and stuff like that of this cult, the 7th generation cult. And what you end up sort of finding out is basically their whole purpose is to like raise the evil dead, basically, and that becomes a Halloween content, which should be starting up here in about another couple of weeks. But yeah, where it's like they're not exactly zombies. Like a lot of players are like, "Ooh, zombies!" It's like they're more like Evil Dead, like Evil Dead movies. But I really enjoyed that, and it's like the Bride is playing Red Dead Online right now because I barely play it anymore, just because there's nothing new. It's a dead game. So she took over, and then she's got a new character, so all this stuff is new to her. But once Halloween comes and the Halloween content comes in, then I will be on there like every night playing Halloween content and playing the survival content and stuff like that, the Halloween based ones. So I like those. Those are probably, I guess, my favorite horror video games. The BioShock series, but like I'm not like in love with BioShock 1. Like it's fine. I'm not like in love with it. I am in love with BioShock Infinite, and it has horror elements, like especially the later level, like that takes place in the future. That definitely has horror elements. the Boys of Silence and stuff like that. But I wouldn't call it. It's much more like an action game as opposed to BioShock 1, which is more of a survival horror game. Otherwise I don't really play horror games really I can think of. Board games, horror board games. That's pretty much all we have are horror board games. The Universal Monsters. Oh shoot, horror. God, what is that called? Horrified. Yeah, that one's fun. That one's kind of a nice little easy game to get into, but it has some strategy to it. If you want to play a little more challengingly. And I mean, we have like the Funko Legend of Sleepy Hollow game and the Haunted Mansion game, which are just kind of like kiddie fun games. Villainous, actually. If that counts, if Disney Villainous counts as a horror game, because it's Disney villains, I would say that's probably my favorite horror game. Again, does it count? But it's about the Disney villains, and you're playing the villains, and you're trying to reach your goal. My favorite villain to play as is the Evil Queen. So your goal is to create a poison apple to kill Snow White. And you win the game if you accomplish your goal. So that one's a fun one. But yeah. Let's see. Where were we? So horror games. Oh, Cuphead isn't a horror game. It's just horrifying to play. Yes, Cuphead has given me like PTSD. Didn't they do a remake of Rosemary's Baby? I don't know. Really, was the second we talked about after Jules Verne? Yeah. Most remakes are terrible. Correct. Original with Neil Farrow's very good. Here's the remake. Opinion on D.W. Griffith. Brilliant filmmaker. Sometimes questionable choices. Like I have seen Birth of a Nation. Not a movie I would have made, shall we say. Everything has been remade, and none of them are as good as the original. Almost. I will say some of the remakes in the 30s, remakes of silent movies, are pretty good actually. So like Mark of the Vampire is a remake of London After Midnight, and I suspect is probably better than London After Midnight was. A few other ones are escaping me right now, but are 1930s remakes of silent movies that are pretty good. Showboat actually is a remake as well. 1936 Showboat is a remake. 1936 Rosemary is a remake. I love you. Sorry. Welcome to our home life where we just break out into song every now and then.
Hey, I'm a theater kid.
Ashley's a theater kid. The bride is a theater kid. So. Fun fact, Evil Dead was my first time seeing a boob. I am still traumatized by it. I steer far away to anything compared to it. Yeah. Evil Dead 1 is genuinely scary. Evil Dead 2 is basically just like, let's see what we can do to Bruce Campbell. So, you should play Hollow Knight and Silk Song. It's the only gothic horror game I can think of. Okay, I'll look into it. I wouldn't be surprised if one of these games gets turned into a movie. Sure. With you having gotten me to watch the Universal Monster movies, thank you, by the way. What was your favorite? Right now, my favorite Universal Monsters movie is The Mummy. To understand why, go watch my video on it. I think The Mummy it marries, so it takes like the basic outline of Dracula and gives it much more emotional heft, much more character depth. I think Imhotep is a much more terrifying, but also sort of like potent and sympathetic monster. Because like he's not just evil incarnate like Dracula is. He's a victim of his own obsession, as much as he's victimizing the women in the story. And then it's got this beautiful exotic locale, right? You know, Egypt in the 1920s, 1930s. It's very evocative, exotic locale. So The Mummy is resonating a lot with me right now. Otherwise, The Old Dark House, The Black Cat, The Bride of Frankenstein, and Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein, I think are sort of like the top tier ones. Topmost tier, although Frankenstein as well. I've actually vacillated quite often between like, which one do I actually like more, Frankenstein or Bride of Frankenstein? I think Bride of Frankenstein generally wins out, but Frankenstein itself is also really, really good. For the latter series, other than Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein, the Mad Ghoul is like a weird, like guilty pleasure one, because I'm just delighted by the fact that the evil scientist experiment was turning this like all-American college student into a goth. That's, oh no, God, he's turned into a goth. So that's funny. It's not a great movie, but I'm amused by it. But yeah, I would say my favorite ones would be The Mummy, The Old Dark House, The Black Cat, Frankenstein / Bride of Frankenstein, and Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein would be my favorite ones. I think the remake of Birth of a Nation was good, changing it from a story about racism to a critique of white nationalism. Yeah. I haven't seen the remake. Was it even a remake, or is it just a name make? Like they just took the name and made an entirely different movie. How come nobody ever mentions Universal's version of Murders in the Rue Morgue? Yeah, it's the thing is like it's such a odd one out, because like it's not there's no like, yeah, I mean Good question. Um, there's no real monster in it, right? There's no real hook in that way. Like, it's not one of the Magnificent Sevens in there or anything. It's got Lugosi, but he's just playing this human mad scientist. Um, it's a period piece. It's kind of got this more difficult setup, say, than like Frankenstein or whatever, or Dracula. Um, it's really like more of a detective movie. Um, yeah, and to be fair, like nobody ever really mentions like the Black Cat either, or the first Raven, with Bela Lugosi and Boris Karloff. Like any of those ones that don't involve the monsters, Old Dark House as well, rarely get mentioned. Like the Black Cat and Old Dark House get mentioned more often in Universal fan circles, because they are so good. But like in terms of popular consciousness, they like barely get a mention anyways. Um, so I don't know if it's necessarily just that poor murders in the morgue. Like the average person doesn't know about the Black Cat either. Um, the Black Cat though does have more of a hook to it. Like it's more like just this insanely memorable movie where Boris Karloff is this like satanic priest sleeping with his wife's daughter, um, who is also the daughter of his arch enemy, who is the good guy, who is played by Bela Lugosi. So it's like Bela Lugosi's the good guy in this movie, but also he's not like a good guy; he's like an anti-hero. Um, so like the Black Cat is just so weird and so off the wall that it's so memorable. Um, whereas like yeah, the other Poe ones, so like the Raven and the Murders in the Rue Morgue, don't really get the same sort of due that the Black Cat does. So, um, let's see, where were we? Underrated film. My favorite overlooked Universal film is The Invisible Ray. Nice. Um, yeah, favorite overlooked Universal movie. I mean, I guess the Black Cat, the Old Dark House. I mentioned they kind of get overlooked, not so much within the fan circles, but certainly in public consciousness. Um, the Mad Ghoul. Um, the Curse of the Undead, as this like kind of like fun weird western. Um, yeah, and I think like House of Dracula is actually a pretty decent movie, all told. For that era, it's a decent movie. And as I did in my video, I think that's the actual end of the Universal Monsters franchise. And Abbott Costello Meet Frankenstein is doing something different. Um, but I think we'll pass on that question, Rex. That's not a YouTube friendly topic, shall we say. Um, Romanticism of evil is pretty much this generation's DNA. How do you explain a lot of goth punk twins that are Slytherin, watch Tim Burton films 24/7, and shop at Hot Topic daily? Um, I don't see. I'm an old goth, despite the banana aloha shirt. I am an old goth. For me, goth was always about an expression of the sublime. The whole Edmund Burke sublime and the beautiful, that kind of thing. And the bride is handing me the yes hot topic, burning down the hot topic here. Yes, it's to me it was much more about the sublime, that sublime romanticism thing, um, which is not in itself satanic. God expresses himself primarily through sublime imagery in the Old Testament. Um, I think the identification with evil, I think in this current generation, is much more odious than that. The aesthetic of dark, spooky, goth, whatever. That's, that's the sublime expression of the sublime. when I'm talking about like this generation's identification with evil, I mean things like they literally think that criminals are the good guys. They genuinely think that authoritarianism is good as long as they're the ones doing it. Um, they genuinely think that communists did nothing wrong, like that kind of thing, right? Like as I observed recently to someone in an online debate, the problem with the Joker wasn't that it um, made a criminal sympathetic. The problem was that the criminal was a white male. That was the problem. If the criminal was like, pick any other group, disabled black lesbian woman, then it would have been, oh, she's so heroic, she's so awesome, she's so amazing, she's fighting against the system. Because it was a white male, now it was a problem, right? So the idea that evil, the system is corrupt, the system is the real bad guy, so anyone who's against the system is automatically a good guy. So whether that's like revolutionaries or criminals or whatever. And so in the progressive mindset, straight white males are the bad guys, they're the system. So the problem with the Joker was that the Joker was part of the system as a straight white male, as opposed to being part of a marginalized group and therefore a good guy. Like that was the problem, right? So when I'm talking about identification with evil, I'm talking about the fact that they literally think that criminals are the good guys and like police are the bad guys, that civil society is bad and their chaos and riots are good, that kind of thing. That's what I'm talking about. Let's see. Where were we before that little aside? Okay, send it. I can speak on whatever y'all want to talk about. I'm back. Don't send it. Murs in the Room Ward used a real grill in some scenes. It was both a remake and a name make, almost like Maleficent, but a better racism message. Okay. Universal made a few attempts at Poe back then, correct. The Raven is my favorite Bela Lugosi performance. Acting like a proto-Vincent Price is what he does best. Yeah, fair enough. My favorite obscure Universal horror film is The Thing That Couldn't Die. Oh, good choice. I remember that one. That was on the Severed Head, correct. What about Paula the Ape Woman? Yeah, what about her? I mean, I have Captive Wild Woman. It was okay. I don't know. It's not super memorable. I'd like to get Shout's Universal horror set number, I think it's 6, that has the Captive Wild Woman movies, but I do not want to pay $75 Canadian for them because they're not worth that much money. Like $10, maybe 20, because they're on Blu-ray. But like Captive Wild Woman just kind of like, whoosh. I watched it and it just kind of like sloughed off. So, thought you forgotten today, Queen. Yeah, you remember The Creeper? Yeah. Rondo Haton. Yes. Goth is the world sucks, but there's beauty. Beauty in the darkness. Punk is the world, and I'm mad. Emo is the world sucks, and I'm sad. Ska is the world sucks, and I have a trumpet. I'm all for. Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, Creed was played by Rondo Haton. Well, I didn't know trumpets were part of emo culture. Well, it's ska. Yeah. Yeah, the first time I've met somebody who likes Paula that isn't me. He has some kind of condition. Yes, he did. Yeah. For a monster kid, no, ska is the world sucks. I have a trumpet. Unfortunate fellow was able to play monster without any makeup. Yeah. He was very frightening in real life. Yeah. Yeah, I forget what the name of his condition is, but yeah, he had like some kind of like pituitary growth disorder that caused him to have like these really exaggerated features and really heavy set and stuff like that, and looking like a monster, which they simulated with makeup in The Rocketeer as well. Goth, emo, etc. has always been odd for me because I'm adjacent to it, but I'm also not too much of a natural country way to fit in with those crowds. Country goth feels the Nephilim. There is a cowboy goth scene, so, or there used to be. Goth's kind of not really a thing anymore, but just old people like me who are still into it, despite my Aloha banana shirt. But yeah, there's a cowboy goth aesthetic. Oh, all right. Had a lull. What have we been going for? Hour and a half. Well, that's like nothing compared to what we've been on before. I just show you one of the things that I got from Spirit, which is a bust of the Crypt Keeper. I do have to paint it a little bit because it's not really worth the $60 I paid for it. But I wanted to have a bust of the Crypt Keeper to go on my shelf with my Tales from the Crypt comics. So this is one of my Spirit finds today. Hooray. Yes, found that. That was one of my Spirit finds this year. Otherwise, it's all been like tombstones and other stuff I've been buying. House decor. Oh yeah, the bat. Yes, haunted mansion decor that goes in the library. So I bought like the Master Gracie lenticular portrait and the door hanger of the bat stanchion from the haunted mansion. So yes, we did buy some haunted mansion decor stuff for the library, which is not specifically haunted mansion themed. It's going to be kind of like a Louisiana, New Orleans theme, but New Orleans Square theme. So the haunted mansion stuff fits in that, and that's also at some point put up the Mark Twain Riverboat poster that I have as well. So because it's mostly Disney inspired, but whatever. Spooky Disney. I think he died in his late 30s. Yeah. Honestly, I just like the color black and feel negatively towards the state of things. I do have country boy in me. Unfortunately, my Davy Crockett hat broke yesterday. Oh no! Not your Davy Crockett hat! I actually love Frankenstein meets the Wolfman, but it's kind of disappointing that Bela Lugosi's lines as the intellectual monster were cut because the test audiences thought it was too silly. I know! Like, the previous movie leaves off with spoilers. The monster's brain being replaced with Igor's brain. And then the next movie, they get Bela Lugosi, the actor who played Igor, to play the monster, and he doesn't speak. It's like, if they wanted to actually keep proper continuity, they should have had him speaking and as Igor now in the body of the Frankenstein monster. But alas. And unfortunately, something else that also got lost, it's there if you know to look for it, is the fact that the monster does go blind at the end of the previous movie because Igor's brain is not really compatible with the Frankenstein monster. So the reason why the monster in Frankenstein meets the Wolfman is kind of walking around like this is because he can't see. But they kind of dropped the whole Igor part, and now he just kind of walks around like this, and that's the whole thing. Frankenstein monster just walks like this. So that's unfortunate. That's some gonzo continuity that they could have maintained. And I actually, kind of enjoy those moments when the Universal monsters go completely bonkers. Like Bride of Frankenstein, of course, goes in that direction. And it's a shame that Son of Frankenstein just kind of did Frankenstein again, as opposed to keep following through in that kind of bonkers direction. Like the Frankenstein series then, of course, goes to Frankenstein. You replace the brain of the monster with Igor's. Like, that gets pretty bonkers, and they forget about it. The Mummy series, Cars, the Mummy series, does get bonkers at the end as well. And, I mean, the third Creature movie is pretty bonkers. But I do enjoy when they get bonkers. So. I've always been too. Theater and fairy tales and bright colors really fit any of those two. That's his illness. Nice Crypt Keeper is one of my favorites, yeah. He helped me find my gender ghoul. Welcome to the crypt. I have a bone to pick with you. The tail of it fell off. I already ordered a new one. Till it arrives, I have a cowboy hat. Good. Good. Yeah, I still have somewhere around is my Davy Crockett hat from when I was a kid. I'm not sure where it is, but
You have it. It's here.
Yeah, it's somewhere. It's somewhere. But yeah, I might go hang in my studio somewhere. Go on my Disney shelves. My theory, Igor's brain got absorbed. Sure, that's as good a theory as any. They're doing remakes of Dracula and Frankenstein. Are you looking forward to any of them? Nope. Sure am not. Like, I know... Well, I mean, okay, so, yeah, Guillermo del Toro's Frankenstein. Sure, I mean...
The costumes are gorgeous.
Yeah, I'll probably see it. Guillermo del Toro's kind of hit and miss with me, so... I don't know. I feel like I should have feel kinship with him as he's a monster kid too, but sometimes we're hit and miss. Like, some of his I like, some of his I'm like, eh. I hated Pacific Rim. So yeah, I mean it's kind of like weird because Dracula and Frankenstein are just such classic books on their own, classic stories on their own, that it's even hard to think of them as like remakes. They're just another version of it, right? Like Bram Stoker's Dracula is not a remake of Dracula; it's just another version of Dracula. Guillermo del Toro's Frankenstein is a version of it, just like Kenneth Branagh's version of it, just like James Whale's version of it. So yeah, there's all adaptations. They're versions of them. I was thinking of like those Blumhouse name makes of like the Wolfman and the Invisible Man and stuff. It's like, not interested. But Del Toro's Frankenstein, yeah, maybe I'd see it.
Pretty costumes.
And the Bride said pretty costumes, so I guess that all begins us. The Dracula remake looks a lot like the Francis Ford Coppola version. Oh yeah. Well, we did see that. The Last Voyage of the Demeter, eventually,
Ooh, yeah.
which was kind of meh.
Well, I had nightmares.
Didn't do much for me. Didn't see Renfield.
I did.
Yeah, how was it?
Chaotic.
Chaotic. Okay. The Bride says that Renfield was chaotic.
It was okay.
Yeah.
I just not really.
Yeah. Um, yeah. I don't know. We'll see. I want to defend Pacific Rim. It's a turn your brain off movie that takes itself just serious enough. It's a little stupid, yes, but intentionally so. What I didn't like about it is that it was like a live action anime in some like this really hollow way. I can't put my finger exactly on it, but it like hit all of the story beats of like a season of like a mecha anime. And you think, well, you like anime, Cory, so that should be good. But I don't know, something about it just didn't work. Whereas, um, Godzilla against Mechagodzilla, so the first Kiryu movie, is also like that. It's like a live action anime, and for somehow it hits all the beats perfectly. So I love Godzilla against Mechagodzilla. It's like my second favorite um, Millennium Godzilla movie. But Pacific Rim was just like, nah, fuck this. I do not like this movie. And I don't know exactly why, other than just something about it rang hollow for me. So I don't know. If anything, I kind of had a feeling like when I watched Fantasia 2000, where it's like, yeah, it looks good, but it feels like a hollow corporate product. Like it's more like a corporate satire of the original work of art. Like Pacific Rim just made me want to watch an anime. So I don't know. I mean, if you like it, great. That's fine. You great, good for you. You enjoyed it. I don't want to shit on it too much, but yeah, definitely turn your brain off. I would agree with that. Yeah. I also remember Sony's adaptations of the classic horror. Dewey? I can't read that. I think the what's in my mug is starting to affect me. I saw a remake of The Wolfman a few months ago. Didn't really have a lot to do with the original. Yeah, they're just name makes. Difference is the lack of dramatic poses. They just use the title, yeah. Yeah, those Blumhouse movies are just using the title. So, but I think Universal is just happy to have the name on something current after the Dark Empire or Dark Universe thing collapsed. Well, they got the theme park. Ooh, ah. So, thrilled about that. Yay. Great. Yeah. I like the classics. I wanted to see the actual monsters in the theme park, not just in a box in the queue. Oh well. That's alright. I can't travel to the United States right now anyways. It's not safe. So there we go. As a Canadian, I think I will just not vacation in the US for the moment. Nobody has original ideas anymore. Yeah. Every story has been told. What's your opinion on Del Toro's Pinocchio? I have not seen it, actually. So, again, it's like, Del Toro's such hit and miss with me that it's like, I don't really go out of my way to watch his movies, so.
Did he do Crimson Peak?
Yes, he did Crimson Peak.
That was gorgeous.
That was alright. I could have done without the incest, but.
Well, that's what made it more fun.
Crimson Peak was all right. Shape of Water I did not see. Um, oh frick, what's his big one? Pan's Labyrinth. That was all right. That was all right. For Coppola's Dracula is another example of sympathized villain. Yeah, yeah, it is. A little morally confused, but it's not. It wasn't totally like, oh, Dracula is actually the good guy, and the good guys are the bad guys. Like, it was still like, this is why he's a bad guy and why he's doing bad things. And at the end, he gets redemption. And for me, like as a Christian, that's the powerful story too. Like that, this redemption, that no one is beyond God's redemption. So, um, I'm willing to give it some leeway in that sense. You have to remember that the theme park is for teenagers and young adults. Teenagers and young adults are idiots. Correct. But my argument is that, if the teenagers and young adults are dumb and don't know any better, then it doesn't matter, and you can still have the classics. It doesn't make a difference. What are they going to know? They don't know any better, so whatever. That one's my argument. So, but yes, I wouldn't even really care that much that it's like, oh, it's not for you, if they didn't have all of this advertising saying, oh, it's for you. This is everything a classic monster fan dreams of. It's like, no, it's not. As a classic monster fan, I dream of seeing the monsters. That's what I dream of. So, that's not what you gave me. You gave me the reimagined version of them, which I don't give a crap about. So, anyways, I've done whole videos about that, and the internet told me to BTFO, so I did, and did 3 videos about horror rides that I do like. So, including one I've never even been on. It just looks amazing. Dracula looked like John Lennon. Oh, the round glasses, like mine. Yeah, there we go. Guys got me going. Drunken rant about freaking theme park rides and stuff. We need Disneyland Canada, so I can actually go to Disneyland again. Except it'll take more than 4 years for them to build it, so. It's not that they don't know any better, it's that they only know crap. True. Yeah. Yeah. Again, it's like, it wouldn't have mattered as much to me if they hadn't advertised it as like, this is your dream come true. And then you didn't have like all the like anti-Disney vloggers who were like, oh, Universal listens to the fans, give the fans what they want, not like Disney. I was like, well, no, Universal is just as bad. This is the woke reimagining of the Universal monsters. It still sucks. It's still terrible. So whatever. I did videos about this. Whatever. Moving on. I might have gotten the famous monster cover repaints of the NECA figures they were selling at the gift shop if it wouldn't have cost over $300 to buy them all and have them all shipped up here to Canada. So nuts to that too. Don't need them that badly. I never understood why everybody loves John Lennon. I always thought Pete Best was the best. But John Lennon made that insipid song about imagining that everything was like perfect by like with all of these stupid things. Like, imagine that people didn't believe in God and how much better the world would be. Yeah, we're seeing that, right? I am getting drunk.
Being so cynical. That's something you love.
I hate Imagine so much. It's so brain dead and insipid. They should just form a team of monsters and turn them into superheroes. I think that's what they tried to do with Dark Universe. Is that it was like, how do we do monsters as a superhero movie? And that's always what they do. That's like why their remakes never work. Is that they interpret the monsters as like action movies. Like Dracula Untold, it's an action movie. The Tom Cruise Mummy is an action movie. Even the Brendan Fraser Mummy is an action movie. It's just it works as like a period piece, kind of Indiana Jones light. because they lit onto sort of the pulp fiction vibe with that. But yeah, it's like, well, Universal Monsters aren't action movies; they're gothic horror movies. You got to do them as gothic horrors, which, granted, is a genre that doesn't exist anymore. But every now and then, you get gothic stuff, like the remake of Nosferatu was pretty gothic, from everything I've seen of it.
Or how about that little short Wolfman thing?
The
That's
little
pretty cool.
little short Wolfman thing.
It was like a half-hour thing.
Oh, the Werewolf by Night.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
That one was kind of fun.
Yeah, as something that fits into the MCU, Werewolf by Night was okay. That was still more of an action thing, though.
Still.
Yeah.
It had the atmosphere.
Yeah, it had Man Thing. Man Thing. Ted. The big swamp monster. That was his buddy. That's the Man Thing. Who would they fight? Queen? Yeah, and there was like Monster Force or something like that in the 90s. They had a cartoon of them. Some villain somewhere. I'm sure they could come up with something. Oh my god, okay, so my childhood friend and I actually came up with this idea for a terrible H.P. Lovecraft cartoon of Randy Carter and a group of kids fighting off Lovecraftian monsters, but like Saturday morning cartoon style. So, but yeah, God forbid that ever gets made. I was trying to come up with the worst idea we could. Honestly, my idea for the Universal Monsters is to adapt the 50s Monster Kid version where they go on wacky adventures. Yeah, I could see that. What I would do if I was resurrecting the franchise is I actually wouldn't start with movies. I would do a cartoon. Now, granted, this is kind of changed because streaming has changed things. People don't watch TV anymore. But do a cartoon very much in the style of Batman the Animated Series. That very stylized, like 1930s, dark, pulp fiction, Art Deco kind of style. And this cartoon would not necessarily, would have overarching stories, but it would begin like with adaptations of the movies, right? So here's Dracula, here's Frankenstein, Bride of Frankenstein, The Mummy, whatever. But then as the series goes on, you start to get these like overlapping stories, right? So Dracula meets the Mummy, and that sort of thing. So you're throwing in some of these newer stories, the creature meets the Wolfman, stuff like that. And you'd have like some common characters of like the monster hunters, and the overarching arc of like the 85 episodes you would need for syndication for this cartoon. And then make a CGI movie or live action CGI mix, sort of in the style of a Sky Captain in the World of Tomorrow, where I would cast Jeremy Irons as the Frankenstein monster, because he looks like Boris Karloff, and use like CGI, deepfake, whatever, yada yada, to use Bela Lugosi's likeness for Dracula, and then have a story built around that and the Mummy and all this sort of stuff. But that would be my sort of thing, and then support that with like toys for kids, like not freaking $60 collector's action figures, but like toys for kids. With like, and my original idea was actually there were these like business card sized DVDs. One of them was actually packed with the Creature from the Black Lagoon VHS, and it had a little CD-ROM game on it, a creature game on it. I thought, you could make a little DVD like that, and then have like clips, like old Castle films, how they have those little like Super 8 reels of, but like scenes, important scenes from the movies, right? So you'd have like, for the Mummy figure, 3 3/4 inch action figure, and have the little DVD with the clip of, where the Mummy comes to life at the beginning of the movie. That kind of thing. And then have these like affordable for children to buy. Like toys for children. Thinking of like, the Final Faction stuff at Dollar Tree, where it's like a kid could actually afford to buy these. These are not adult collectibles. These are like toys for kids. that's sort of the strategy I would use to bring back monsters, but it's not like Universal listening to me. So, whatever. Monsters should definitely be the good guys. They've always been ish. I think you could do an overarching storyline with like where the Frankenstein monster becomes a good guy and the bride sort of tagged along with him. Larry Talbot would be a good guy, but the Wolfman not so much. Um, the creature could kind of come around. um, like stuff like that. Like some of them could be, um, others not so much. The MonsterVerse is kind of in fault with that too. Yeah. Um, I want It's a Mad, Mad, Mad World, but with Dracula and Frankenstein. There is that. There was like a cartoon that was kind of like a quasi sequel to Mad Monster Party, Mad 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 Monsters or something like that. So that cartoon exists, Rex. It's a good premise. Thank you. I would actually watch the real Ghostbusters, but with H.P. Lovecraft monsters. They are. They are in real Ghostbusters. There's a whole episode. It's a collect Call of Cthulhu. um, Ghostbusters was like my introduction to H.P. Lovecraft type stuff. So much of Ghostbusters, either like obviously or more subtextually, is referencing back to H.P. Lovecraft with like the different books and the different kinds of spirits and monsters and things like that. And then they had some obvious references like Cthulhu or whatever they call them. Like there's a whole episode of that. So yeah, like real Ghostbusters is sort of Lovecraft inspired, very much so. Good way to attract kids to these characters. Thank you. Honestly, the best way to get kids into Universal Monsters available is Hotel Transylvania. Yeah, I can see that. I do not go blah blah blah. Didn't they fight Cthulhu in the real Ghostbusters cartoon? As I can remember. Yep. Call of Cthulhu. New toy line would be a lot of fun. Oh, the bride just asked, is it Cthulhu or Cthulhu? Because I keep saying both.
I only know it as Cthulhu.
I believe my understanding is that properly pronounced Cthulhu, or something along those lines. But everybody just says Cthulhu because in English you just pronounce the is pronounced like that. It's so we pronounce it Cthulhu as opposed to Cthulhu. Yeah. Yeah, a new toy line. Like, see, this is the thing. Like, there are ways of marketing to kids. Make a collectible card game out of it. But they don't. Like, reaction figures, which are like based on children's toys from the 80s, are priced like adult collectibles. And they actually just unveiled like they're doing the reaction plus of Dracula, the Wolfman, and is it the Frankenstein monster or the Mummy? One of the two. But they're like the O-ring, like G.I. Joe figures, like old G.I. Joe figures, have all the same posability and stuff like that. Which, if you collect retro 3 3/4 G.I. Joe style figures, is great. If you're collecting the like the G.I. Joe X Transformers crossovers, where you have like, Megatron as a His tank and Soundwave as the Thunder Machine and Cup as the Triple T tank. Those include like remakes of the original G.I. Joe figures. And they have the Ghostbusters, the set of the Ghostbusters in that style as well, the O-ring style. If you were collecting those, then getting the reaction Universal Monsters figures in the O-ring style, 3 3/4 inch O-ring style, would be awesome. I'm not though, so I'm not going to get them. I'm collecting the NECA ones. That's fine. Plus, it's like the reaction figures are priced like adult collectibles and not like the cheap kids' toys that they're designed to look like. So I can't really countenance that. But if Dollar Tree were to make Universal Monster figures and sold them for $3, I'd buy those. Because why the heck not? For $3. But that's neither here nor there. Let's see. I don't know. I grew up with the Deke Ghostbusters cartoon, the one with the gorilla. Yes, yeah, that Ghostbusters cartoon was better than any of the movies. Which, like the real Ghostbusters cartoon or the other Ghostbusters cartoon, the unreal Ghostbusters. Dracula is genuinely evil. Yes, even the first movie. Do you know there was even an even earlier version of Ghostbusters had a gorilla on their team? Yes, yeah. So you had the Ghostbusters, which was the one with the gorilla. That was a live action show. And then there was the Ghostbusters movie came out. And then Deke made the Ghostbusters cartoon to cash in based on the original show with the gorilla. And that's why the cartoon of the movie Ghostbusters is called The Real Ghostbusters, because it was to contrast with the other Ghostbusters. It's kind of a mess, but yes. I always pronounce it Cat Tulu. Cat Thulu. The first Ghostbusters does still hold up. The first Ghostbusters is great. Ghostbusters 2 is not so great.
First Ghostbusters.
Yeah, it's just do Ghostbusters again. Ghostbusters Afterlife, I really enjoyed. A lot of it was sentimentality, but I enjoyed it. I did not even see Frozen Empire. Just not, didn't care. And we shall not speak of the other version. So, it does not exist. I think there was a separate cartoon series that was based on the original Ghostbusters. Yes. Yeah. It was called Tracy. That does sound a bit confusing. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, the one with the gorilla, yeah, had the old show, old live action show, and then they made a cartoon of it to cash in on the Ghostbusters movie. Ghostbusters movie gave rise to the real Ghostbusters cartoon, called the real Ghostbusters because of the other Ghostbusters. Yeah. I watched both of them, but I mean, I loved the real Ghostbusters. Even like I love the movie, and I still love the movie to this day. Um, but the real Ghostbusters was like I religiously watched that for like the entire run of the series. I love that. Um, I would even love to get like the new Mondo action figures if they didn't cost like hundreds of dollars. But anyways, the one with the animated Statue of Liberty was a bit disappointing. Yeah, that's Ghostbusters 2. Yeah, I primarily grew up with the Gorilla Ghostbusters. I only watched the first Ghostbusters movie as a kid. Oh, also the 2016 one, which I thought was like fine. I mean, you're welcome to think it was fine. I think that was Ghostbusters 2. Yep. Yeah, Ghostbusters 2 was the one with the Statue of Liberty. And it had the painting of Vigo the Carpathian. Mm. A amount of drink. That is unfortunate. The bride's like, that's probably for the best. Like how animated I'm getting. Hey, I avoided ranting about 2016 Ghostbusters. So. The new Ghostbusters are aimed at kids, yeah, which is fine. I like Ghostbusters Afterlife because yes, it rehashed a lot of the same story and tropes, but it did that in a different genre. Right? The original Ghostbusters was like Saturday Night Live comedy skit, whereas Ghostbusters Afterlife was like children's 80s adventure movie, like The Goonies or Stranger Things. Had the kid from Stranger Things in it, so there you go. Does Stranger Things count as horror-ish? It's more like 80s adventure. 80s kids adventure. So that was enjoyable. And then like I actually related like a ton to the girl. McKenna Grace's character. I forget her name all of a sudden, but Phoebe Spangler. Because like that was me when I was a kid. So I even looked like her as a kid. So yeah, I related a lot to her, which like, oh wow, I'm relating to someone who doesn't look like me. Well, she did, but who's not a white male. How is that possible? How can you relate to someone who's not exactly like you? Sorry. Got me going. Plus, it also helps that Ghostbusters Afterlife was filmed in my area as well. So, like, when it came out, the bride and I, we drove down to the town of Fort Macleod, Alberta, to watch the movie in the theater that's in the movie. So when they're driving through that like old time looking town and they blow up the sign of the movie theater, that's the movie theater we watched the movie in. So, and it was enjoyable. But you know what? It was like an enjoyable one time movie experience. It wasn't like, it didn't make me want to see Frozen Empire. I was just like, okay, whatever. And I had my fun watching Afterlife, and I'm good now. So, as much as I love Ghostbusters, that doesn't mean like I have to see every Ghostbusters thing. So, anyways, ba-ba-da-ba-dum. They turned the Marshmallow Man into minions. Yeah, they did. They did do that. Yo, when I'm your age, I want to be like you, crazy King Kong fan too. Woo, all right. Yep, sounds good. It takes a lot of work to be as cool as me. And hey, the bride just laughed. Ah, how dare you? It comes naturally, she says, laughing at me. Yes. No, I mean, it's, yeah. Thank you. Thank you. I will accept the compliment. I hope you stay as cool as you are now when you are my age as well. I do like Afterlife and Frozen Empire was good, but not as good. It was nicely queer coded, which, as a queer, I always appreciate. Yeah, fair enough. To move into another subject in mind, I do find the concept of the paranormal interesting, but I still consider myself skeptical. I enjoy it mainly as something fun to listen to while I'm ready for bed. Fair enough. I'm similar. I don't believe in like cryptids and ghosts and stuff like that, the esoteric. But I do find it interesting. Um, like I love Ogopogo. Ogopogo is like my favorite real monster. He's the lake monster in British Columbia. He doesn't exist, but I enjoy him as a cultural icon of Western Canada. So stuff like that, like the um, the cultural influence of these stories, these monsters and stuff like that, I find interesting. But I don't really actually believe in them myself. I do find the idea that you need to be just like something to relate to them. One of the characters I relate to most to is a lesbian lemur. There you go. Yeah, yeah, like good writing will enable you to relate to anybody. Um, so it's like, yeah, the idea if the only character I can think of in media that was exactly like me, I felt so seen and represented by, was Egon Spengler. He's like the tall Ghostbuster with glasses who knows everything. Um, the but it's like, okay, if I want to broaden that out a bit, okay, Lydia from Beetlejuice, both the movie and the cartoon, she's like a goth chick. So okay, I feel kind of represented by that. Phoebe Spengler from Ghostbusters Afterlife, because that's who I was as a kid, just not a girl. Same with Lydia. you know. But it's like there's lots of characters I can see things in, and then having to admit, being male, um, men tend to be more aspirational. I'm not saying this is not like a hard and fast rule, of course, but as a general trend, I have noticed that men tend to be more aspirational. They look up to characters as a model, not looking to characters to see themselves in it. Um, which is why like every man relates to Goku because they want to be Goku. So like it's uh they don't see the need to be represented as much as to have somebody to look up to. Um, so and looking at it that way, it's like, yeah, there's lots of characters I can see something in. Like I can see something in Han Solo that I thought was admirable, and see something in Luke Skywalker too, and in Princess Leia for that matter. Um, and that's good writing. If they can be relatable to a lot of people because they share common like universal human experiences, then that you're writing well. if you silo off and say like, well, you can't relate to this person because they're a different skin color than you, or a different gender than you, or different gender expression, or sexuality, whatever. I need to have one that looks and sounds and is exactly like you for you to relate to. Um, that's poor writing, and I mean, the one of sort of modern progressivism's ideologies is that universalism is symptomatic of white supremacy. So you can't relate to people who are different from you. You just can't. There is no common human experience. Just like that is wrong. So, anyways, um, love paranormal stuff. The paranormal is modern day folklore. I believe. I've seen things. Cool. I don't encourage anyone to believe in the supernatural. I listen to the paranormal YouTube channel before bed. I mean, nice. I think there are things we don't know anything about. There's still a lot of secrets in nature. That's true. I advise people to be skeptical. You know, did you watch Beetlejuice? Beetlejuice? I did not, because it's disingenuous. Decades later sequel boot. The only character I look up to is Godzilla. I'm taller than everyone else. Indeed, you are, Rex. I like being open-minded and finding out about new things. Yeah, which is fair enough. I did have a phase as a teenager of being really into like paranormal type stuff, cryptids and ghosts and goblins and things like that, and even creationism and stuff like that. But luckily, it wasn't out of any like deep-seated ideological commitments. It was just curiosity, and that translated pretty easily and got shifted pretty easily into actual science and actual theology and stuff like that. So I lucked out that I wasn't committed to it. It was just a symptom of my curiosity, and my curiosity got satiated by like the real stuff, the real science and the real theology and everything. So I can still appreciate the old monsters as cultural icons. Beetlejuice didn't need a sequel. Yeah, like Kevin Smith said it, right? Like, didn't we say everything we needed to say with the first one? Does Beetlejuice really need to go Hawaiian? Most movies don't. Like, yeah. Yeah, that's why like I was fine with Ghostbusters Afterlife. It's like, yeah, it's fine. I don't need to like see another just random sequel of them fighting a random ghost thing. Like, eh. As poorly made sequels made decades later, go Beetlejuice 2 was pretty decent. Well, fair enough. I did actually, as far as Tim Burton stuff goes, I did enjoy Wednesday, but haven't seen the second season of it yet because we don't have Netflix anymore. So we ran out of Netflix, so haven't seen that. But you know what? That's okay. I actually don't feel like this huge compulsion to need to see the second season of Wednesday. So, other than costumes, I guess. But Wednesday had its weak points too, like the whole story arc about like, did Gomez kill someone? It's like, he's Gomez Adams. I assume he did. Like, how is this a problem? What do you mean? I used to watch the Beetlejuice cartoon, which was great. The Beetlejuice cartoon is still awesome. It was the perfect definition of good enough. Beetlejuice 2 was good enough. Wednesday was good enough. Not my favorite version of Adam's Family either, but
good enough to be fun.
Good enough to be fun. Yeah. Yeah, the Beetlejuice cartoon was good. Was wild. Beetlejuice's babysitting service. Squatting on them.
Hey, whatever works.
Hey, whatever you gotta do, right? Yeah.
It's a wild.
But I liked a lot of weird cartoons as a kid. I mean, I liked, the usual stuff: Transformers, G.I. Joe, He-Man, Gem, what have you. But also like Captain Power and the Soldiers of the Future, Beetlejuice, the completely mental misadventures of Ed Grimley. It's a good one. Hey Verne, it's Ernest. It's a good one. Pee-wee's Playhouse. I kind of had a love-hate relationship with. Yeah, like it was weird because on the one hand I liked Pee Wee Herman's comedy, but I also hated it. Like I kind of hated the character of Pee Wee, but I also like that kind of comedy also resonated with me. So like my mom asked this question one time about what show or like celebrity whatever, like some question on some crossword or something. Like, do you hate the most? And I'm like, Pee Wee Herman. And she's like, well, why do you watch his show then? It's like, good question, Mom. So, yeah. I watched Wednesday season 2 only because I shipped Wednesday and Enid just to be disappointed severely. Well, doesn't Enid get like another girlfriend in that?
We don't know. We haven't watched it.
Yeah. I heard the actress who plays Wednesday is difficult to work with. Oh,
I didn't hear that.
oh, what's her face?
Ortiz.
Jenna Ortiz. Yeah. I don't know. She seems rather matter of fact and has a good head on her shoulders from everything I've seen of her. Who do you like more, the Addams Family or the Munsters? The Addams Family. Jenna Ortega. There we go. She recently did a movie about a unicorn that flopped badly. She's a teenager. Addams Family. The reason why. Munsters is too on the nose. Munsters is too on the nose as like, okay, there's the Frankenstein, there's the Dracula, there's the Wolfman, there's the this, there's the that. And okay, the whole shtick is like they're just a normal family who happen to be monsters. And it's not to say it's bad. It's not to say it's bad. It just is what it is. And it's a little on the nose. Whereas the Addams Family, I think, is more sort of original and creative, and kind of zany. And it's doing something a little more subtle, which is that the Addams Family are not a normal family, but they are a loving family. And they actually model really good family relations. And that casts this critical lens on the rest of society. So it's not just like the Munsters where it's like, ooh, everyone's scared because they're actually monsters, even though they themselves are not really cognizant of being monsters. Whereas Addams Family is like, they're showing how like normal people and the things that we take for granted about normal society are actually kind of more messed up through the lens of this messed up family who really love each other and who are really there for each other. And then like none of them are like, okay, Morticia's like a vamp character, but otherwise none of them are really like monster archetypes, right? Like Gomez is just a guy who's crazy. Wednesday's just a creepy little girl. Pugsley likes to steal road signs. Fester is just whatever the Fester is. Like their thing. Cousin It. None of them are like these monster archetypes. So to me, it's a little bit more creative. Speaking of Cousin It, by the way, I picked this up for like $10 at Walmart, so I couldn't resist. The Cousin It hairdressing kit thing. So I was deciding whether or not I was going to do an unboxing on this or do a video or just unbox it on my own anyways because nobody watches my toy videos. But yes, it was like $10 at Walmart because nobody buys these things. So there, I can do hairdressing on it. So speaking of it, Cousin It. But yeah, so that's the thing. And again, I sound like I'm crapping on the Munsters. The Munsters are fine. They're just, I don't know. I'm more of an Addams Family guy. Munsters are a little too on the nose. The pilot episode of Addams Family?
No, Monsters.
Of Munsters.
Something Lane.
Oh, 1313 Mockingbird Lane.
So good.
Oh, that was good. Yeah. The Munsters remake, the 1313 Mockingbird Lane, is actually really good because it strips away a lot of that like on the nose monster stuff. So like Herman Munster is not just like obviously Frankenstein. Eddie Izzard as Grandpa is much more of like Bram Stoker's Dracula vampire as opposed to like Bela Lugosi vampire. Yeah, 1313 Mockingbird Lane, for all like 4 episodes it lasted, was like super good. Yeah, it's too bad that series didn't take off. She got a movie. She's not really that famous. She was in the Beetlejuice sequel. Yeah, the Munsters or the Addams Family. I like both. Herman Munster was so funny. I like them both as well. Enid does get another girlfriend, but they dubbed hers and Wednesday's as sisterly, which is like saying that Anne was justified in torturing the last 5 humans. I think Adams as a family works better, but Munster's characters can stand better individually. Okay. So their relatives with the Munsters are other universal monsters. Well, like Uncle Gil. Yeah. You mean Uncle Gilbert? He's obviously the creature of the Black Lagoon. Yes, he's just Black Lagoon in a trench coat. Yeah. Yeah. Like, you could argue Munsters are part of the Adam or part of the Universal Monsters franchise. You could make that argument. Because it's by Universal and it's the monster archetypes, and it's even literally the creature from the Black Lagoon in a trench coat. But I don't know. I don't think it's hit. Like it's okay. Like I watched it at the store when I had the store and I was sitting there all day. I had the Munsters. I put it on every now and then. But I don't know. Adam's Family just resonates more with me. So didn't really like 1313 Mockingbird Lane. They changed the Munsters too much. Well, there you go. You like the Munsters as they were, so 1313 Mockingbird Lane didn't work for you. Whereas I'm like, the original Munsters are So 1313 worked really well for me then. So that makes sense. Scribbles to Screen did recent update video on King Kong's missing spider pit scene. You mean the one that was never filmed? It doesn't actually exist? Yeah. If you can't tell, I am going through and I have no mouth and I'm a scream phase. I have read that story way too many times. Fair enough. Yeah, everything comes back to that one, right? Yeah. Actually, the next video that I want to do, hopefully I'll get some time in the next week or two to actually film it, is on the missing scene from King Kong that actually did exist and should have stayed in the movie. And it's not the spider pit sequence, because the spider pit sequence was never filmed. Some people claim the spider sequence was never filmed. Yes, correct. It was not ever filmed. So that argument comes from Ray Morton, who is like one of the scholars on King Kong. And he has seen the actual shooting scripts. Like the scripts they used, the daily scripts they used to plot out the films they were actually filming, the scenes they were actually filming. And he said the spider pit sequence is not on there. Every scene that is in the movie is in these scripts, and other deleted scenes are in these scripts, but not the spider pit sequence. So he is of the view that the spider pit sequence, they made the models, and they did take test photos, which is the ones that you see everywhere, but they never actually filmed it. It was cut from the script before they actually filmed it. Probably because it's totally unnecessary. And it it drags the story down. Because like the story is about, at that point in the movie, Kong has kidnapped Anne and Jack is chasing after them. So why do we need to see a 5-minute sequence of these nameless sailors who are extras dying? Like it just stops the story, right? And like all you need to know is that they died. So they're on the log, Kong knocks them off the log, they all fall and they die. Boom, done. Easy peasy. Now we're on to Jack chasing after Anne and Kong. That's what we need, right? And that keeps the movie going on. They probably realized that in the script phase. That scene dragged it down. It wasn't necessary, so they cut it out. As opposed to the scene that I do think should have stayed in the movie, which I'm not going to reveal right now, because I want to do a video about it. But yeah, like that scene actually would not have been very long, and it would have actually helped set up things for later. So that scene should have stayed in, but the spider pit was never actually filmed. Technically, it was eventually filmed by Peter Jackson as a bonus feature. Yeah, he filmed it. Because, I mean, that's right up Peter Jackson's alley, because Peter Jackson is more, right? Why wouldn't you spend hours getting to know characters that will just die horribly in a pit later on anyways? So, like, yeah, the spider pit's right up his alley. So, and it's an interesting cinematic experiment in filming this scene, trying to recreate what this scene might have been, kind of thing. O'Brien's widow claimed it was filmed. I believe her. I don't. So, Miriam C. Cooper also claimed it was filmed, but I also don't trust Miriam C. Cooper either. So, I trust what the evidence says. Then they do a test screening using the spider pit sequence. That is the legend. That is the legend, that it was in a test screening. They took it out because it was too scary. But there's no evidence it was ever filmed. So, no. That is... And the only source for that that whole story about the test screening is Merian C. Cooper himself. So that sounds like Merian C. Cooper just like hyping things up and being a showman, as opposed to any actual solid evidence of it. So yeah. What's your favorite race? The 1905 automobile race from, I think it was New York to Paris, or was it 1908? Like that.
Around the world.
Mine's the Kentucky Derby. Nice. Forrest Ackerman claimed to have seen the spider pit sequence. He did not. That is incorrect. I don't even know if he ever actually claimed that. Maybe he did, but he's wrong. But Forrest J. Ackerman also made up a lot of stuff as well. As much as I love the guy, like I actually met him. I met Forrest J. Ackerman back in 2006. I have a photo with him. But he is not reliable. Famous Monsters of Filmland is the source for the urban legend about how King Kong versus Godzilla has two different endings. That's his fault. He did that. So he's not reliable. Forrest Ackerman is not reliable. Great guy. Famous Monsters is classic, but not a reliable source of information. It was just another showcase for O'Brien's special effects. Yeah. The spider pit sequence is the cryptid of the King Kong fandom. Sometimes it's better to just let people believe it. True. The spider pit creatures showed up again in The Black Scorpion. Yes, they also showed up in You'll Find Out, the Kay Kaiser movie, starring Bela Lugosi, Boris Karloff, and Peter Lorre. They're also in that, as well as the dinosaurs from it as well. Some of the dinosaurs also show up in Bringing Up Baby as well. And another movie that I can't remember off the top of my head.
Is that the one where he shrinks?
No, Bringing Up Baby? That's the Cary Grant.
The one that the armatures were in season. Got really excited.
No, that was You'll Find Out.
Okay.
Yeah. When they find the secret lair of the bad guys, and there's like, hold on a second. And on the shelves are like all the animatronics, like the puppets for the Triceratops and stuff like that. And then on another wall is like the spider from the spider pit sequence. Yeah.
I thought they also used them for when that guy shrinks and he's fighting like a spider. And
The Incredible Shrinking Man. No, that was a Universal movie.
Okay.
Yeah. RKO movies use them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, no worries. Sorry, the bride was like getting confused there. Yeah, no, they were RKO properties, so they were used in other RKO movies, like Bringing Up Baby and You'll Find Out and stuff. But, and then the argument is that they were using the Black Scorpion as well, but there's no really solid evidence that's the same models. That's just sort of the urban legend that goes around. So they actually built the models. Yes, they did build the models. They did build the models of Spider Pit sequence. They built the models, and they took test photos with it, which is probably where Goldner, in his book on the making of King Kong, where he talks about filming the Spider Pit sequence, that's probably what he is remembering, is when they took test photos, but it never got to the actual animation. They might have even done some rough animation, like some test animation with them, but they never did a completed sequence with it. I love Peter Jackson's filmmaking, but I agree he can get overblown sometimes. Yeah. You're the first person to answer that question with something other than black, white, or Asian. Thanks. You're welcome, Rex. And they were built where they could be animated, yes. O'Brien would reuse some of his models in different films. Yeah. Correct. In fact, this Styracosaurus that was originally going to be in King Kong was reused in Son of Kong. The Kong armature itself was stripped down and remade into Kiko in Son of Kong. So the Kong armature, either one, never actually survived very long as King Kong. They were stripped down and made into Kiko for the sequel. And then stripped down again. And today, it's Peter Jackson and Bob Burns, I think, own them. I remember the Starbachosaurus from King Kong was eventually used in Son of Kong, correct? Yep. Yep. I don't think they were animated in any other films, if I remember correctly. It's just they show up as props in other movies. Like, you'll find out in Breaking Up Baby. I don't think they were, and maybe Black Scorpion might have used them if they're the same models. Keeping in mind, Black Scorpion was like 20 years after King Kong, and those armatures don't stand up that well. So, just like latex and foam rubber sort of things. So, they're not like the most durable and long lasting models. Um, by the time, like the 80s, when Forrest Ackerman still had some of the models, they were looking pretty rough. So, what's your favorite honorary Universal monster movie other than King Kong? Personally, I like Return of the Vampire. That is a good one. That is a good one. Um, I would say my favorite honorary that's not King Kong would be the Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde from 1931. That one is a fantastic movie. I think that's even better than a lot of the Universal ones, frankly. Um, and Mark of the Vampire, which is the remake of London After Midnight with Bela Lugosi. The Vampire Bat with Fay Wray and Dwight Fry is really good. Um, part of me wants to say Hunchback of Notre Dame for 1939 because I love Hunchback of Notre Dame. It's like one of my favorite single novels. Um, but I have to admit its quality is not quite up there. Its cinematography is a little bit pedestrian. Its scope, it feels a lot smaller. Um, yeah, so it's sort of like a really high second tier, I think. Same as um, Island of Lost Souls is like not quite all the way up there, but it's pretty darn close. It's a really high second tier. Um, like maybe that's another subject for a video. Is my tier list of non-Universal Universal movies. Because yeah, Kong would be right at the top, and Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, Mark of the Vampire, and Vampire Bat. I think those would be, and Mad Love actually, Mad Love as well would be like my top 5 non-Universal Universal monster movies. Um, tier 2, bless you. Tier 2 would have like Hunchback of Notre Dame, Island of Lost Souls, um, Black Moon would be one. Um, remember the rest of them. Yeah. Anyways, that could be a subject for another video. Is my top non-Universal Universal movies. 76 King Kong didn't have dinosaurs. Yep, it sucks. What's my opinion of Dr. X? Interesting ideas in it. I really hate early color. Like two-strip Technicolor looks really gross to me. The kind of like washed out greeny color. I think if Dr. X and Mystery of the Wax Museum had just been in black and white, they would have actually been stronger movies. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. To me, those two kind of go hand in hand. They're kind of like the same vibe, the same two-strip Technicolor, the same cast, the same production company, that sort of thing. Um, I would put them kind of like on tier 3, maybe, of movies. But I'm trying to decide if like White Zombie goes on tier 2 or tier 3. It's White Zombie. It's kind of like a low-key classic, but it's not everything it could be. You know, like I think pretty much like every yeah, no, okay. Like every Val Lewton movie is better than White Zombie. So I would actually put yeah, the Val Lewton movies would I think be arranged on tiers 2 and 3. I think of the non-Universal Universal movies. Like the really good Val Lewton ones would be tier 2. the lesser valued ones would be tier 3. And then I would probably put actually Mystery of the Wax Museum and Dr. X probably in tier 4 then. That thing. So Frederick March, Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde, that one won an Oscar. Yeah. 76 Kong remake was kind of boring. It sucked the fantasy out of it with the so-so characters, yeah. Well, it's a 70s movie. That's what they do. 70s was de-romanticized. Island of Lost Souls was banned after it was first released. I can believe that. That would actually be a fun idea for a live stream, ranking non-Universal Universal monster movies. Yeah, if you want to do it as a live stream instead of just a video, that could be done. I mean, we did the that tier list one time, live stream the tier list of King Kong's enemies. So, which was like, I mean, it was kind of obvious listing, right? Like the actual character enemies, like Mechani-Kong and Scar King would go in the top tier, right? It was pretty strong stuff for that time. Yeah. Fay Wray was in Dr. X. Good enough reason to watch that one. True. I'm actually reading Fay Wray's autobiography again, which is right over my shoulder there. No, I was reading that today because we were getting car repairs done this morning. So I had nothing to do, so I sat and read that for a bit. She had a messed up early career. Oh my god. So many people trying to have their way with her. Poor thing. White Zombie is very underrated. Yeah. Yeah, that's the thing. It's like White Zombie is kind of a minor classic, but it's also like not, it's just not as good as, I mean, definitely not as good as like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde or King Kong or anything. You could maybe try making an argument for being on tier 2, maybe tier 3. I'd be more inclined to put it on tier 4 even. But that said, if NECA made like a Legrand figure, like Bela Lugosi from White Zombie, if they made an action figure, I would buy it. Like absolutely. Wouldn't have to ask me twice. So yeah, it's hard to say. It's almost like I like the idea of White Zombie more than the actual execution of it. It's like White Zombie is sort of like the movie about, pre Night of the Living Dead zombies, right? Like Haitian voodoo zombies. It's like that, and I Walked with a Zombie, are like the two big ones. But if I'm judging by like cinematography and the script and the acting and stuff like that, I would say I Walked with the Zombies better of the two of them. Yeah. Sorry, Big Jack. Yeah. Big Jack likes what Big Jack likes, and Big Jack is very excited about what he likes, and it's hard to. I'm not gonna say he's wrong because we're not that he knows who I am, but he's a fellow King Kong fan, so there we go. That's fine. But he's certainly more excited about the '76 version than I would be. So, and I think he actually liked the musical, like the stage musical. So, I mean, God bless you, man. Good for you. White Zombie was one of the first black and white movies. What? Sorry, Rex. No, all movies were black and white up until color. So, I like the remake of Mystery of the Wax Museum, House of Wax. Yeah, House of Wax is better than Mystery of the Wax Museum by far. I mean, even if you overlook like House of Wax, like being obviously meant to be in 3D, like, woo, look at the yo-yos going at the screen. I mean, it's got Vincent Price. It's got gloriously lurid Technicolor. House of Wax is a better movie than Mystery of the Wax Museum. So that's another example of a remake that's actually better than the original. Just know if you do make it a live stream, I will fight tooth and nail for Bela Lugosi meets the Brooklyn Gorilla to be in A tier. Yes, I still owe you a review of Bela Lugosi meets a Brooklyn Gorilla. Thank you for the reminder. I still owe you that review. I also like Fay Wray in The Most Dangerous Game. Yeah, Most Dangerous Game, I would put that in tier 2. That's a solid tier 2. Yeah, it's smaller scale. I always think of Most Dangerous Game as kind of like this addendum to King Kong. Right? To me, it kind of folds into the overall mystique of King Kong. right? Son of Kong and Most Dangerous Game, and to a certain extent, Bird of Paradise, are all sort of folded into the general Kong sphere. As a standalone movie, so ignoring King Kong and just looking at Most Dangerous Game, I would say that's a solid tier 2. I think it's as good as Hunchback of Notre Dame and Island of Lost Souls and the upper tier of the Valoon ones for sure. Yeah. Let's see. The exception in the 70s was Star Wars and Jaws. Yeah. That fellow in Brooklyn Gorilla looked exactly like Jerry Lewis. Although he was sued by the real Jerry Lewis. Oh my gosh. Sorry, typo. It was one of my first black and white. Oh, one of your first black and white movies. Okay, that makes sense. The animated musical of King Kong is unwatchable. Oh my god.
Oh my god.
Yep. That's why I had to make a video on, like, is a good King Kong musical even possible? I almost had the gumption to talk to Jodie Benson about the King Kong movie. Because I was at the Calgary Expo, so our big annual Comic-Con thing. And I was walking around the showroom, the dealer's room. And there was the Celebrity Zoo off to the side. And there was Jodie Benson in the Celebrity Zoo. Nobody was talking to her. Nobody was getting her autograph. None of that sort of stuff. And I almost had a moment of gumption. Like, I 99% of the time do not care about celebrities. Except that, like, we watch a lot of videos about, like, what the hell Harry and Meghan are up to. But that's because we don't like them. But I was almost tempted to, like, pay the money, get Jodie Benson's autograph, and ask her some questions about, like, what the hell happened with King Kong in a polite way, like, what was it like working with, and, see if she would even let me film it, right? What was it like working with the Sherman brothers? Was it like working with Dudley Moore? Well, how did it feel to be, like, only the third, like, 3 people who have ever played and Darrow on film? And what are some of the parts of the movie you're most proud of? If you even remember the movie, you might not even remember it. What are you most proud of, and what are maybe some things you would have changed given the opportunity? Like, word it like that, but sort of like, what the hell happened with this movie? Because yeah, you'd think on paper, the King Kong animated musical sounds good, right? It's got the Little Mermaid, it's got Dudley Moore, it's got music by the Sherman Brothers. What the hell? How did it end up being so bad? Like, what the crap? I'm on my phone, it's hard to type. Fair enough. Most Dangerous Game was filmed on the same sets as King Kong. Yep. Yes, the Most Dangerous Game. So what actually happened is that after Bird of Paradise went massively over budget, lost huge amounts of money for RKO. They, oh no. Sorry, the bride is playing Red Dead Online. So RKO put in these very, very hardcore, like, budget caps on movies after that. And unfortunately, King Kong, to produce it, would have well exceeded its budget cap. So they did a lot of creative accounting. And part of the creative accounting was that they would build sets for other movies using those other movies' budget that could then be reused for King Kong, very consciously so. And so the swamp sets for King Kong were built using Most Dangerous Game's budget. And so between takes on Most Dangerous Game, they would film the swamp scenes for King Kong. And at that point, they hadn't even got, like, a fully finished script yet for King Kong, but they knew they were going to have these scenes of sailors running through the jungle. So they filmed those scenes in between takes on Most Dangerous Game, sometimes to Ernest Schoedsack's chagrin, because he's like, okay, Miriam, I got to film my movie here, so hurry it up, So yeah, and then once, of course, they finished Most Dangerous Game, then they took those sets down. But they had already filmed what they needed to for King Kong out of those sets there. So that's what happened there. Fortunately, they didn't have King Kong sing. Oh my god. Yep. Do you miss the traditional voodoo zombies over the virus in a fiction modern day zombies we are now used to? Yeah, I mean the the um the virus infection allegory for collapse of society zombies are a very potent archetype. That's why they are so common now, right? That Night of the Living Dead, sort of this nihilistic collapse allegory for the collapse of society, um, and all of its derivatives and so on. That's a really potent imagery. That's a potent archetype, and so I certainly don't want to undersell it. But it's also something we're so used to now that the old timey voodoo zombies are actually kind of like refreshing to see. Um, and that overlaps very nicely with my general interest in things Tiki and 1930s adventure movie and stuff like that, right? So your I Walked with the Zombies and White Zombie, mesh very nicely in with Black Moon and other like voodoo, not necessarily zombie, but certainly voodoo terror movies and Green Hell movies, stuff like that. Um, there's a lot of resonance in there, so I do enjoy seeing that sort of thing. And yeah, it's a refreshing change from like zombies as allegory for collapse of society. Like really, you only need to see like one zombie movie. That's Night of the Living Dead. Night of the Living Dead, even though it's like the diametric opposite of the Universal monster movies, like that is, the horror that God does not exist. That's Night of the Living Dead. Oh. You kind of only really need to see that one movie. every other movie is a derivative of that because the horror that God does not exist is kind of a one note thing, anyways. Because like once the worst thing that can happen to you is dying gruesomely, that's all that can happen to you. Whereas I think the horror that God does exist opens up more room for different kinds of horror. You can explore different human themes in there in a slightly different way than you can with like just the worst thing that can happen to you is dying. So okay, you die in a really horrible way. All right. But that said, Night of the Living Dead is a brilliant movie. Like it's very effective at what it does. So if you want to make a movie about chaos swallowing up society, that's the way to do it. Without too much, it is possible, and it will be down when I get to make Sing a Kong, the eighth wonder of music. Oh God. No, Nurex, no. Oh, well, maybe you can answer that question. Is a good King Kong musical possible? So there's also a Broadway musical adaptation of King. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Oh my God. Yeah, that was awful. That was awful. The Australian version of it, the original Australian version of it, was passable for the most part. But the Broadway version is just awful. Like, I have watched every available clip of it, and it is just god awful. Um, and watch my video about it. I made a video about it. Watch it. And I'm torn because, like, part of me wishes that I could have seen it, just because of like the cachet of seeing the King Kong musical on Broadway in New York. Is kind of cool just in and of itself, right? King Kong on Broadway. But the downside is that I would have had to sit through the thing. And no one should have to do that. So, yeah, it's just so, it was god awful. Everything about it was just terrible. Except like the puppet. The puppet is great. I actually have my eye on some online listings for like the plush version of Kong from like the souvenir from the show because the puppet looks fantastic. The puppet looks great. It's just the humans are terrible. The humans are awful. So yeah, no, and the songs are terrible. So yeah, they're trying to be all Hamilton. It's just like nope, not working. So they should have just picked a vibe and go with it. For one thing, like if you're gonna do like electro swing, then stick with electro swing and just do that, and then write good songs. And none of this like freaking like what they do with Anne in the Broadway version. It's a supervillain origin story. Like she becomes a supervillain in it, in control of this giant monkey. Just like, oh my god. Anyways, whatever. Watch my video about it. So yeah, I would have liked to have seen it in one hand. The other hand, I would have had to have seen it, and that was no one should have to do that. Zombies have been done to death, no pun intended. Wah wah. They've even done TV shows like The Walking Dead, correct? They've even filmed some of The Last of Us around here, where I live. They actually built a giant mechanical Kong for the Broadway version, correct? Yep, and it looks great. Looks great. But yeah, Kong doesn't really tend to lend itself to live performance. There is an independent theater troupe in California that does a live action version of it. And what they do, they have the humans on the front stage, like in front of the stage. And behind them is a screen. And on that screen, they project another actor who is backstage dressed up as Kong. And so it is a live performance of Kong, just projected from a back room. And for a low budget independent theater troupe, it actually looks kind of interesting. If I manage to get down to California again, when I manage to get down to California again, I wouldn't hurt my feelings if a trip coincided with one of the times they're running the show, just to see it. It'd be interesting. See how it actually works in real life, seeing it firsthand. So, but yeah, I mean, generally speaking, though, King Kong, as a special effects spectacular film, but also conceptually, right? Because it's a movie about movies. So making it a play about movies, it's kind of conceptually not hitting it right, right on target. Being a movie about movies is a little more fitting. For those who don't know, a few years ago, I got drunk in Europe. And when I woke up, I had a full script written for a movie called Sing Kong, which was a near 1-to-1 of the original movie, but he sings. Nice. Anyone remember Queen Kong? I have seen Queen Kong. It was definitely a movie of its time period. Queen calls it a travesty. Correct. I was tempted to get the Metacom toy figure of Queen Kong, but then I decided why. Like, the toy was better, was funnier than the movie. So it was just sort of one of those like, am I just getting this because I can, because it's there on Buy right now? So I decided not to get it. I like it when they try some other monster casting the apocalypse, such as A Quiet Place movies, though why military couldn't find ways to prevent it from happening. That is an ongoing problem in movies, is that our military power has far outstripped any threat we can actually conceive of. Okay, like Independence Day aliens, yeah, okay, yes. That's more powerful than our military, sure. But like our military, modern military technology. But like, yeah, Quiet Place, zombies, dinosaurs, like guns don't exist in Jurassic World because like they can't, because guns would solve the problem in no time flat. Like that one short, like the Battle of Big Rock or whatever it's called, where it's like the little girl saves the day with a crossbow. It's like, do guns not exist? Do guns not exist in this world? And this is the United States. Who in this campsite does not have a gun? Like, what the hell? So yeah, it's just like, yeah, like in Jurassic World, guns don't exist. That's the only way to explain it. Let's see. 28 Days Later is really good, but those aren't really the undead type of zombies. More like rabid humans. Yeah, fair enough. I didn't get a chance to see the recent 28 Years Later. That is like the strangest series. 28 Days, 28 Days Later, 28 weeks later. 28 years later. What does that have to do with Sandra Bullock? None of those sequels make sense. All I remember of Queen Kong is the line, "She's the queenie queenie for my weenie." Yes. Yeah, you didn't watch it. the bride didn't watch Queen Kong. Oh my god. Okay. So, imagine it's a gender inversion of King Kong from the 70s. Yeah, there you go. And British, by the way. So, yeah. Imagine how terrible that would be. And it's probably worse than you could imagine, actually. So, yeah. It's really cringy. It's like shrivel my face inside cringe. Like, yeah. 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 It's got a few funny parts, but mostly, like, it's 99% cringe. Yeah. I guess I have to do a video about how I would fix Queen Kong. First of all, don't make it. Yeah, how can you fix it? By withdrawing their funding. He can talk. Kong, I can sing. It flopped, Queen. So you weren't the only one. Yeah. Well, with Jurassic World, it's more of a legal, moral thing. It would be moral to hunt the dinosaurs. Sorry, Rex. Different for you. Those dinosaurs in that movie. They're not real. They don't have feathers. They're not real ones like you are. The next one will be called 28 Centuries Later. Yeah. No, 28 decades later. Then 28 centuries later. That would be the next one. Oh, I am. How long have we been at this here? Almost 3 hours. So, you can feel me dropping off here. But we'll see if there's any more shenanigans you guys are talking about here. I think we'll skip opening up my cousin is here tonight. So it's a little dark here. I'm kind of worried about losing parts. So I got the mood lighting, but it's not great for unboxing toys. You should check out The Mighty Peking Man. It's a version of King Kong made in China. I'm trying to remember if I have seen that one or if I'm mixing it up with Ape. APE. I think I've seen. I think it's Ape I've seen. It's the one where the monkey flips off the camera. That's the one that I've seen. I can't remember. I keep confusing Mighty Peking Man and Ape. You've seen Mighty Peking Man?
Yeah, but I'd also seen the Hawaii, so.
And you've also okay. Yeah, and like it's weird. Like I did this little phase like a year ago of watching a lot of the movies that were made to cash in on the 76 King Kong, like Queen Kong, um, and Ape and so on. And actually I was finding them a lot more enjoyable than the 76 King Kong. Because some of them are so freaking weird. Even Queen Kong, for as cringe as it is, at least it's not just a remake of King Kong, but worse. At least it's doing something different, even if it's cringe. So, has that going for it at least. Why don't they use loudspeakers to lure the monsters away from populated areas? Yeah, that would be an idea. It is somewhat similar to Ape. Yeah, which is the one... Okay, it's Ape where he flips them off. Okay, so it's Ape I've seen. I've seen Ape. So I guess Mighty Peking Man I have not then. So I guess I have to get I probably tried to find it and couldn't find it online. That was probably my big thing. I am stroking my beard here. Jeez. Nervous twitching. All right. Yeah. So I probably tried to see Peking Man and couldn't find a copy of it online. But Ape I've seen, because how can you forget the monkey flipping off the camera? It's so weird. Queen Kong I've seen. No, Konga I haven't. But that was like a 50s cash-in, not a 70s cash-in. So I haven't seen Conga yet. But I probably should at some point. Just do a whole video on like King Kong knockoffs. Do you ever see Yeti? No, I've not seen Yeti. I've not seen Yeti. Ha ha! Oh my god. Okay, it's time to close this up. The alcohol's run out. Cory is buzzed. And he's been out for 3 hours, so he's getting tired and making even worse jokes than usual. So. These are a marathon. You guys are machines. Well, speakers work on teenagers, sound of bees for elephants, so why wouldn't they use speakers for dinos? No, that's for the Quiet Place. Because the alien monsters are drawn by sound.
Sorry.
So, use the speakers to draw them away.
That would be sensible.
Yeah.
What would they do with them after that?
Blow them up.
Oh.
Blow them up real good. That's like an old SCTV skit. Blow it up real good. There's the one about the giant abominable snowman. Yeah, I probably know which one you're talking about, but I don't remember it offhand.
Yeah, it's called
Yeti? Oh, it's half human. There's that one. That's like a normal size Yeti movie. Have you seen King of Kong Island? That is the... No, I'm mixing that up with the King of the Lost World, which is a terrible knockoff of both King Kong and the Lost World. I have not seen King of Kong Island. The Asylum made a few movies that were knockoffs of King Kong. Yeah, I think Asylum probably is the one that made that King of the Lost World. With Bruce Boxleitner. Bruce Boxleitner. There we go. They make the worst movies. Yeah. I'm starting to feel unwanted with all this anti-dino talk. Oh, Rex, we love you. I love dinosaurs. Dinosaurs are great. It's just Jurassic World is dumb. Because large dinosaurs running amok is the least problem. So, unlike you, you're a civilized dinosaur. So, but no, we love you, Rex. We love you. We all love dinosaurs around here. Yes, thank you, Queen. Have you seen Zillafoot? No, I have not seen Zillafoot. To add that to my list of things. Actually, the best knockoff giant monster movie I have seen in recent memory was a Japanese one. I wish I could remember it. It's a giant hair monster. What's it called? Japanese kaiju parody hair monster. Gahara. Yeah. Gaharha. The dark and long-haired monster. That is great. I was even tempted to let's play it on the live stream. Gahara is amazing. You have to watch Gahara. Gaharha. Yeah, it is awesome. That is my favorite kaiju satire. So you have to see that one. Which is a comedy. There's also one called Notzilla. Indeed. No, Gahara. Watch Gahara. It is great. And I actually would be kind of worried, if I played it on the live stream, if that would cause it to, go copyright blank. So, watch it on your own. Watch Gahara on your own. How do you spell that? G-E-R... G-E-H-A-R-H-A. Gaharha. Yeah. The dark and long-haired monster. 2009 Japanese made-for-television short kaiju film. It is awesome. Cory, is Godzilla's Revenge canonical to the Godzilla franchise? Godzilla Revenge. Are you thinking the movie in English that's All Monsters Attack? Cause no. No, because All Monsters Attack is a boy's like fever dream. So, whoa, got competing answers here. El Santo says no. Queen says yes. Uh-oh. What do we do? Keeping in mind that like All Monsters Attack is like just a clip show, anyways. So, except for the parts with Gabra. Yes, he means All Monsters Attack. Okay. Yeah, I guess I would be of the opinion that um, no, it's a kid's fever dream, so it's not canon. Um, but the monsters in it are canon. So even Gabra is canon. Um, but the other monsters all appeared in other movies, right? Kamacuras and whatever. Um, so yeah, I would say the story is not canon, but the monsters are. That would be my opinion. Why wouldn't it be? Because it's a child's fever dream. So it's like this kid's dreams about Godzilla, right? It's not actually like Godzilla proper. Someone get that kid some Tylenol. No, his mom already had Tylenol when she was pregnant. That's why he's the way he is. Uh-oh, now YouTube's gonna be like, there's misinformation in this video. What about Gamera Super Monster? Well, Gamera's a different franchise, right? Or is that like the Dice Capade show that had them both in it or something? It's not recognized as canon by Toho, however, it is weirdly canon to Kamen Rider. Really? Huh. That's odd. Um, I know that technically Zone Fighter is canon to Showa era, but I've never seen Zone Fighter, so. But the kid in that movie only saw Godzilla vs. Ebirah and Son of Godzilla. Yeah, he only saw those two movies. But hey, that's enough, right? So, because Godzilla vs. Ebirah is like a crypto Kong movie, anyways. So I can't watch it and not think King Kong. Gamera Super Monster is recognized as canon to Daiei. You know. I'm not a Gamera expert because, as I have said many times, the lore of the channel is that I have tried to get into Gamera and I just can't. I don't know what it is, what I'm missing, I don't know, but I just can't get into Gamera. I do, however, like as far as Daiei goes, I love Daimajin. Daimajin is amazing, and Yokai Monsters would be like my second favorite Daiei tokusatsu thing. So. My theory, Gamera Super Monster was a dream, only they never told us. So are we part of the dream too? Oh my god. Ah! Oh my god. Yeah, I don't even know if I've seen Gamera Super Monster, so it's hard for me to say. Again, I've tried to get into Gamera, but the kid from Godzilla's Revenge is in an episode of Kamen Rider, playing a character with the same name. Oh, Kenny. He's a Kenny. Okay. So it's sort of like kind of canon, but kind of not. Kind of like an illusion thing. Kind of like how technically, is it Howard the Duck is not actually in the Marvel Universe anymore or something like that? No, there was like some. Is the Flash? No, yeah, it's the Flash. Right. So, no, it was like, yeah, it was something like, I don't know why Howard the Duck came up there. It might have been him too. No, it was because like the creator of this character um, jumped to the other company and then wrote this like tricksy roundabout way of like getting this character from the one company to the other and then just renaming them and stuff. Yeah, it was like some weird like really fiddly little tricksy thing. The kid from Godzilla's Revenge. Okay. That kid also watched Galaxy Express and Captain Harlock. Yep, and good taste as well, because Galaxy Express is awesome. Captain Harlock's okay. Also, Monster Island Buddies is canonically in the mind of a grown-up kid for Godzilla's Revenge. Monster Island Buddies is great. If Monster Island Buddies was canon, that would be amazing. We have to talk to Toho about that one, though. I'm trying to figure out where the heroic space women came from. Kid in GSM in that movie is probably imagining all this too, with all the superhero and Star Destroyed nonsense. They're playing with his favorite Gamera movies, fight scenes on his head. Nice. All right, well, I can feel myself dropping off now. It is after 10 o'clock my time. We've been at this for over 3 hours. Oh my gosh, it's after 10 o'clock. Do you know where your kids are? So I think we might draw this to a close here tonight. Next time, I don't know. We might do the old Skull Island Luau here, or we might go back to the regular normal live stream non-Luau version. If I got the studio set up enough that I can broadcast there. That's another month away. So, although I guess, it didn't occur to me. The end of next month is Halloween. How did that not occur to me? What year is this? When are we? What's going on? So it might be a Halloween live stream then. Well. So I guess I have to bring up a thing for that, hey? So let's see here. Where's the proper thumbnail for that? There it is. Okay, there we go. A Halloween Haunt live stream. So, maybe we'll do that. Maybe we'll be doing that instead, since it's Halloween. So then I guess for that maybe I should be in the studio instead of here in the Tiki room. Yes, technically Howard the Duck is canon to both Marvel and DC at the same time. Yes, right. But then they also did that with the Flash, I think, because the whole idea was like after Barry Allen disappears after the Crisis, a lightning bolt turns up in the Marvel universe or something like that. But yeah, Howard the Duck. Yes, so maybe it happened to both of them. That's why I had them put together in my head. So All Monsters Attack is actually fan fiction. Yes, we should do ranking next time. Do the ranking next time for Halloween. Oh yeah, the best non-universal universal movies ranking. Yeah, maybe. I love the Halloween season. Yes, Halloween. Yes. Well, good night, Cory, and everyone else on the stream. Yes. Good night. Maybe we'll hash out in posts of what we should do for the live stream. But thank you very much, everyone, for once again joining me here in the Tiki room for the Skull Island Luau. And we will see you next month. And hopefully, in the meantime, I'll actually make a video again, now that I'm actually in this house and I'm done my summer work season. So I'll hopefully have time in between trying to make this house livable. But thank you very much, and yeah, we'll see you next month. So good night, everyone.